The following is a conversation with Neil Adams, a legend in the sport of judo. He is a world champion, two-time Olympic silver medalist, five-time European champion, and often referred to as the voice of judo, commentating all the major events, world championships and Olympic games, highlighting the drama, the triumph, the artistry of the sport of judo, making fans like me feel the biggest wins, the biggest losses, the surprise turns of fortune, the dominance of champions coming to an end, and new champions made. Always speaking from the heart. And now, a quick few second mention of each sponsor. Check them out in the description. It's the best way to support this podcast. We got ZipRecruiter for hiring, A-Sleep for napping, Masterclass for learning, Element for hydration, and NetSuite for business management software. Choose wisely, my friends. Also, if you want to work with our amazing team or just want to get in touch with me, go to lexfreeman.com/contact. And now, onto the full ad reads. As always, no ads in the middle. I try to make these interesting, but if you skip them, please still check out the sponsors. I enjoy their stuff. Maybe you will too. This episode is brought to you by ZipRecruiter, a site that connects employers and job seekers. Filling your life with people that bring out the best in you is difficult, challenging. It's a puzzle, but it's a deeply worthwhile one. Because the experience of the minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day, month to month, year to year of life, surrounded by people you like, who inspire you, who help you notice the beauty of life, but also challenge you, such that through the struggle you become a better version of yourself, the best version of yourself, hopefully. All of that is one of the most beautiful ways to live life. So, if you're hiring or looking for a job, ZipRecruiter is great for that. See why 4 out of 5 employees who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/Lex to try for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/Lex, the smartest way to hire. This episode is brought to you by the bringer of naps, called 8 Sleep, and it's Pod 3 cover. I've talked to a lot of Olympic athletes, CEOs. I think it's kind of fascinating to discuss with them because they've already accomplished, in many cases, they've already accomplished the really grand big things, the Olympic gold medals or running, starting, scaling, running, and winning at the game of business. And then when they look back, the big lesson in terms of health they often go to is the value of sleep. Now, it's hard to know whether that lesson is supposed to be learned. You're supposed to fail and then you learn it, meaning you spend your 20s or your 30s or some stretch of time sacrificing sleep. And it's not actually a sacrifice. It's a gift to the gods of excellence. So it's not like it's not supposed to be that way. It's not a mistake. It's not a failure. But when they do look back in a kind of offhand way, they'll say, I learned the value of sleep, that I'm just a better thinker, better performer, more efficient, wiser, all those kinds of things when I get a full night's sleep. But anyway, the moments you get with your bed, use them wisely. So I love 8 Sleep. It allows you to cool the bed down, warm blanket, it's heaven. Check it out and get special savings when you go to 8sleep.com/Lex. This episode is also brought to you by Masterclass, where you can watch over 180 classes from the best people in the world in their respective disciplines. I watched many of them, loved many of them. Let me bring up Martin Scorsese. He has a masterclass on filmmaking. He made a lot of incredible, incredible films. Goodfellas. I know you're not supposed to give an Oscar for that kind of thing, but why not? Give the man an Oscar. Raging Bull, Casino, Taxi Driver, Genius, and then Shutter Island, The Irishman, the new one with the Killers of the Flower Moon. I mean, just genius. Genius. By the way, I got a chance to recently meet and shake hands with Leo DiCaprio. And I went out to nature with him. And just the depth of curiosity he has about the world, about ideas, about the natural world, about the visual world. That beginner's mind, forever still there, burning bright. It's good to see. Anyway, Martin Scorsese really breaks down simply the way he thinks about filmmaking. And that really is the only way to learn about geniuses like him, is to hear it from them, to see the genius in the words and the spaces between the words. Get unlimited access to every masterclass and get an additional 15% off an annual membership at masterclass.com/LexPod. That's masterclass.com/LexPod. This episode is also brought to you by Element. It's an electrolyte drink that has sodium, potassium, magnesium that I think is foundational to the way I approach diet and life. When I eat once a day, which is what I mostly do these days, or if I fast for even longer than 24 hours, getting the electrolytes right is a big part of that. And what is it about fasting that brings clarity to the mind? I mean, some of it is physiological, I'm sure, but some of it is just that feeling of longing, this physical longing for satiation, just feeling a little bit incomplete and sitting in that feeling. But it's not the completeness that's needed for a good life, for a clarity of thinking. It's the longing for completeness. So I'm a big fan of fasting, but you got to do it in a healthy way. Element will help you out. Get a sample pack for free with any purchase. Try it at drinkelement.com/Lex. This episode is also brought to you by NetSuite, an all-in-one cloud business management system. It's like the machine within the machine that finds the common language for the different parts of a business to communicate. I'm still slightly haunted by a thing I read a long time ago that Jeff Bezos said that every business eventually dies and that you want to prolong the life of a business as long as possible. But I don't know why that broke my heart so much. Like it always does, the finiteness of good things. I would like to believe that businesses, groups of people themselves, when they're good, they last forever. When they do good by the world. But that's not how it works, does it? Anyway, I think about the finiteness of great businesses. And I guess, as Jeff Bezos said, by the way, amazing human being, but as Jeff said, the whole job of a leader, of a manager, of a business is to keep that first day thinking, keep innovating, reinvigorating, being ready to pivot, to make hard decisions, all of that every single day. It never ends. And use good tools for that, for the job of running a business, like NetSuite. Over 37,000 companies have upgraded to NetSuite by Oracle. Take advantage of NetSuite's flexible financing plan at netsuite.com/Lex. That's netsuite.com/Lex. This is the Lex Friedman Podcast. To support it, please check out our sponsors in the description. And now, dear friends, here's Neil Adams. You are a 5-time European champion, world champion, 2-time Olympic silver medalist. Let's first go to the 1980 Olympics. Where was your mind? What was your preparation like? What was your strategy leading into that Olympics?
That was my first Olympic Games. So my preparation was a little bit different to how it was the 84 and the 88 Olympic Games. And I'd kind of done part of the preparation as well for 76 Olympic Games. I wasn't quite old enough for those, but I was first reserve. So in 1980, I'd had 4 years build up and I was hungry and I was one of these young athletes, and I see them so often now, that was developing and, full of, I won't say I was full of myself, but I was certainly confident of my ability, and I wanted to conquer the world. And I'd had a couple of really tight matches with the current Olympic world champion. So I knew that there was a possibility that I could get there for the 80 Olympics. So building up to the 80 Olympics was quite interesting, because I was kind of coming through the weights, and I was halfway in between the 71 kilos weight category and the higher weight category of 78 kilograms. And I'd got third place at the 79 World Championships, the weight below. For the whole year at the higher weight category, didn't lose a contest. So I'd beaten everybody in the world. And then I had to make a decision as to whether to drop to the weight below, because I was seeded in the weight below. It was a different seeding then. So I decided to drop into the weight below because I was seeded in the top 4. And as it happens, I think it was probably the worst decision I made. Well, because because, I mean, it was the only contest that I lost was the final of the Olympic Games in that year.
So you're a young kid, like 19, 20 at that time, full of confidence, vigor. So the decision to cut weight, how hard was it for you to cut weight to the 71 kg division?
I've got to say that it was the hardest, because as I was going up, I was, it was 73, then it was 74 kilos, 75. So I was moving through the weight category. It wasn't like I was stuck in the middle and then I dropped the odd time to compete. It was literally going up in weight by a kilo every month. And then by the time I came to a month or two before the Olympics, it was really hard. Fought the European Championships at the higher weight category and won that. And so everybody that was in the on the Olympic rostrum at the European at the Olympic Games was on my rostrum at the European Championships. Mm-hmm. So was it a mistake? Yeah, because I didn't have my diet sorted out. My nutrition was appalling, and when it wasn't as kind of readily available as it is now for the nutrition. And I would say that if anything lost me that final, other than the fact that I was fighting somebody who was terrific, he was an excellent, brilliant athlete, but it definitely didn't help that my nutrition was not very good.
Okay, so you lost to Ezio Gama. There's probably a lot of that we could say about that particular match. Maybe let's zoom in. What were your strengths and weaknesses judo-wise in that Olympics? You said you haven't really lost a match. You won the European Championship leading into it. But if you had weak spots, okay, you already said diet, but specifically on the mat in terms of judo.
I think that none of the fights lasted time going into the final, so I won fairly quickly, and every match by Ippon, way before time.
Do you remember how you won the matches?
I won them by a couple of throws for Ippon, and then arm lock for Ippon. Semi-final was an arm lock against the East German, Kruger. And I was flying through,
What were the throws? Do you remember?
Tayatoshi, Uchimata, my favorite kind of tokuwaza, my favorite throws. And then a Jujikatami as well, which was a Jujikatami roll against an East German who I'd beaten before, but always had a really tough match, but managed to beat him well.
So you had a beautiful exhibition of Japanese type judo in the first 2 matches. Yeah. You threw people, and then you also did the newaza. You armbarred a person. Great. So you're going into the final. What are the weaknesses going into the final against the Italian?
Like I say, taking nothing away from him as a great athlete and a brilliant judo man, and left, which wasn't good for me. That was definite no, because I hated fighting lefties, still do. But I'll tell you why in a minute.
It's great.
It's one of those. But I think as I went through the contest, we had an 8-hour break from the semi-final to the final. They took us back to the Olympic Village. Then we had to come back in, and then we had to start a warm-up again, so I kind of lost my momentum. I had to start again. And I didn't. I just didn't. I had a job to get going. I got halfway through, started to rescue a dying match. And, I was kind of one step half a step behind all the way through. So never really got into it.
So why do you hate fighting lefties? And lefties are, we should say, overrepresented in terms of the higher ranks of judo. I don't know why that is.
Well, the thing is about a lefty is a lefty will have more opportunity to fight right-handers. Because, I mean, 70% of the population are right-handers, 30% left. So they get to fight more right-handers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a fact, that happens. So the thing that they hate is fighting left against left. They don't like they don't like it left against left, whereas a right-hander will go right against right. But the opposite is awkward for me, because just simply I like to go onto the sleeve, and then I like to dominate the grips, but the actual angle of the opponent wasn't what I wanted. So I had to work really hard against it.
What happened in that match?
It was a split decision in the end, and so to lose an Olympic final on a split decision is pretty. It's something that's still on my mind, and I think that it's a strange one, because I can still wake up that one and 4 years later at the Olympics, because I was silver medalist at the Olympics 4 years later as well, and it still haunts me.
Do you sometimes wake up and think like, man, I should have eaten better?
Yeah.
Or maybe like a specific grip that you're like, I shouldn't have taken that grip.
I do. I mean, the diet side of it it's difficult to really admit that, isn't it? That you went to an Olympic Games, and the one thing that you really sucked at, right, was one of the most important things now at world level sport. Where you've got the nutrition. We've got it. You would think that most people have got it sorted, but there's still people making mistakes, and still people that haven't got it totally sorted.
And then there's people like Travis Stevens, who I think doesn't care. He'll just have atrocious nutrition, and he just makes it work. I think the way he spoke about it is you can't always control nutrition, so it's best to get good at having crappy nutrition.
It's a good way of looking at it. Maybe that's what I did.
Yeah, exactly. Do you remember what you were eating? Are we talking about like candy or?
Yeah, well, I got a sweet tooth, but it wasn't really. I mean, I didn't have a lot of money at that particular time either, so the diet wasn't steak and good nutritional salads and things like that. I did what I thought was best without, proper advice. And the crazy thing is that I had such good advice as well, when it came to kind of fitness training and things like that. We're quite ahead of our time, and, we really had it nailed as far as the conditioning was concerned. The judo training as well was way in advance, because I was a good trainer and I trained more than most. Mm-hmm. I can honestly say that. It probably got me away with a lot.
Where was your mind? So mental preparation going into that Olympics. You said you were confident, but is there some preparation aspect behind that confidence?
I think in the early days, I didn't think I was going to lose. I never thought it was possible to lose. And I think that I went into every contest expecting to win. So when it didn't quite go my way, I didn't lose that many contests, So the only ones I lost were in the final of the World Championships or in the final of the Olympic Games. So I didn't lose that many. I never lost a European title. I had 7 golds at the European Championships, 5 at seniors, 2 at juniors, under 20s. And I never lost a final, so it was, and then I only lost 2 on a split decision, so it was, I didn't lose that many, and my attitude was that I wasn't going to lose, and I couldn't lose, so I was always surprised when something happened.
In Neil Adams' A Life in Judo, written in 1986, you wrote, "Ever since I can remember, I have wanted to win. It wasn't the ordinary feeling that children have when they take part in their first primary school sack race on a grass track, or even the keen determination of a young swimmer prepared to train early in the cold winter mornings in order to make it into the county side. With me, the desire to win was, and still is, as much a part of me as my arms and legs. In other words, it wasn't something I learned as I grew older, but rather was deeply rooted in me. Perhaps this competitive instinct is the greatest difference between my public image and the view from the inside. So people see the kindness, the warmth you have, the charisma, the excitement, but there's this big drive to win inside you. So what's behind that? Can you just speak to that drive to win and how that contributed to
You
your
know,
competitive?
when I look back now,
There's a lot of years ago, we should say.
it is a lot of years ago,
Is that
but
true, or
it
were you
is.
just
It's
being
not
poetic?
far off. No,
Okay, all right.
it's not. When I think about it now, because I'd like to think that I'm a different person now, and since I've kind of calmed down, I see athletes now, and I see them. And their kind of arrogance, their walk, and it's a strut, and it's a kind of a confidence, isn't it? As we're older, and as I've become older, I've calmed down, but it doesn't matter what I'm doing; it's still that will to win,
Mhm.
and I'm much better at masking it now if I don't, but it still bothers me as much.
You're talking about like, I don't know, even just like stupid, silly things, like I don't know, a game of pool or something like
Yeah.
this, or just anything.
Yeah, I'm still trying to win. So my son loves to he loves to play me at bowls
Mhm.
because I'm useless, and I just can't throw a straight bowl. So he loves playing me at that, but it bugs me that I'm not
Yeah.
better, and
Yeah.
there are certain things that I do. It really bugs me when I'm not good at it. And I guess it's one of the reasons that, long after I'd finished competition, judo, people still want to train with you, and
Mhm.
even at a like kind of an older age, even now, if I do in a seminar or, they'd still, do you still do you want to still go? And can I feel it? And, one of the things that's in me is that I just, all the way up to 40 years of age. So from 30, when I finished competition, up to 40, I could still train with the best and I could still go with anybody. And then when 40 hit, kind of things started to fall off a little bit, and I used to get, either my hips or my legs and my knees. And I realized that I had to pick my practices, and that rankled as well. And I had to then just calm it down a little bit. Otherwise, I was going to be injured, and I was going to be, so it's not a good thing when you're getting older and you've still got the same competitive mind, but things change.
So it's still there. You get on the mat, probably even now, right? You
Yeah.
get on the mat with a world champion, you still the
Yeah.
current world champion. There's still
Could
a little
I?
part of you
Oh,
like,
yeah.
could I still toss this guy?
But, and
Kids these days are soft.
I
No,
did. Well, you know what? Some of these athletes, I mean, like, I give you a prime example, right? Is Ilias Ilias.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, he is a monster, right?
Yeah.
And you just, of course, you couldn't, because you just at 60 something, you couldn't. But you like to think that you could,
Yeah.
and
You could. You never
no,
know.
but
You
no,
gotta
but
find out.
you know what you would do? What you can do is you can cause them problems, and they feel it immediately, but you'd last a minute,
So you've trained with Ilias Iliadis. So I gotten a chance to train with him as well. He's a really nice guy. Really great
guy.
He's
He
really
trained with me. We were training together. Every hotel that we used to go into, we'd end up in the gym together and we'd train. And this one time he was in there and he just wanted somebody to grab and grip hold of. And so we ended up doing this kind of grappling in the middle of, the people doing weight training and, the different things, watching these two madmen doing. I'm glad we weren't on a mat at that particular time.
Yeah.
But good fun.
What do you think about that guy? He, like you, achieved a lot of success when he was young.
17. You imagine that? 17, 18 years of age. And he's able to compete with the men. There's not many men can do that, and it doesn't happen very often. It happens later with the men. And often they're not physically as developed as they, so from me, for example, I fought Nevzorov, who was world and Olympic champion. He was the current world and Olympic champion. They sent me to the European Championships senior at 17. And so that doesn't happen very often. And I pulled Nevzorov. So I fought Nevzorov and I had him really worried, because he expected, without a doubt, to come out throw this kid, and junior.
And he was like thick and shredded, like he's a
He
man.
was shredded. Like there's a picture of him in his judogi, and his judogi is just cut, and it's and he looks the business. And there's me in this baggy, like skinny kid inside this baggy thing. But and the thing is that the more he tried and the harder he tried and the more he panicked, the further it went away from him. And so, of course, he got the decision at the end, and deservedly. But I worried him, and so for me that was a massive step forward, because a year later I was, starting to fill out, and 2 years later I was competing for the Olympic title. So
I don't know if I remember, but Ilias Iliadis is interesting. Because even at 17, I feel like he was doing big throws, like literally lifting them with the
just
hips.
rips them out of the ground, And I was saying to Nikki, my wife, and she said, "What would you do now that was different than the way you did then?" And I said, "But I never had any pickups, I didn't. That's not what we did, But you have a look at the young Ukrainians, or the young Russians, or the young Eastern Bloc Mongolians, and they're ripping people out the ground. I mean, it's just different style of judo, and it just looks different. But now they're starting to do traditional style judo as well.
Mm-hmm. So can you speak to that? What are the different styles of judo? So for you mentioned Uchimata, Taitoshi. These, how would you describe them? They're like these effortless, less lifting off the ground and power and like strength and explode, and more timing and position, movement, momentum, all this kind of stuff. That's more traditionally associated with Japanese judo. Because like for Japanese judo, the traditional judo, like you're supposed to throw people in a big way without much effort.
And of course, 1990, we saw the introduction of all these Eastern Bloc countries, there were so many more. I mean, it was Soviet Union when I was competing. And then, of course, in 1990, everything changed. And then there were so many more of them out there, different countries, that their wrestling styles were introduced into judo. Put a jacket on them and let's get into judo. So judo kind of changed shape. It changed shape from this upright standing, and having to know the technicalities of how to get a body that's weighing 14 stone, or, whatever it is, up into the air, and using the momentum and the balance and the direction and the skill to do that, and knowing how to do it, and how to use movement. And then you get, the wrestlers and the leg picks and the double legs, single leg, double legs, and and it kind of, by 1995, judo was bent over. Mm-hmm. And so it was the IOC that went to IJF, International Judo Federation, and they said, "You got to change this, or we're just going to have one wrestling style. It looks like wrestling with judo, with judo jackets on. So you either change it, or we're going to take one of you out."
By the way, we should sort of clarify, when we say people are bent over, that's usually how you see freestyle wrestling. Wrestlers are more bent over to defend the legs and so on. And traditional judo, people are more standing up because that's the position from which you can do the big throws and all that kind of stuff. But I think the other case to make for banning leg grabs is, a lot of people are using it for stalling and not for beautiful big throws and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so it's not just not to make it different from wrestling. It's also like you want to maximize the amount of epic throws and dynamic judo and exciting stuff to watch, right?
Yeah, win by judo, not by wrestling. And I think that, the ones that were shouting about it were the wrestlers, right? Because they like to compete with both. They want to do both. They want to do, their wrestling matches and then come into judo. Yeah. So basically, I mean, what we've said is, then learn to do judo, and there's nothing stopping you then from doing both, right? But not from the other way around. All right. So rules always dictate development. They'll always dictate which direction it goes. So if you introduce a rule that states that you cannot dive at the legs and just pick up, then you'll have to do it standing up. And also it increases the possibility of defense with the hips. because actually good defense judo-wise, standing up, is with the hips as opposed to sticking your arms out and then sticking your backsides out there just to defend. All right. So if you attack me and I move my body in the wrong place, so I'm in the wrong place at the right time, so you don't hit the right target, and then also I use my hips, So again, it's a form of judo that was being lost. So now we got it back.
Well, so let's go there. Let's speak about judo as if we're talking to a group of 5-year-olds. So what is judo? What are some defining characteristics of judo as a sport, as a martial art, as a way of life, all that kind of stuff?
I think, when you say it is a way of life, I mean, I think the great advantage that we have in judo, my young grandson, so I got two little boys that are 3.5 years of age, love going to our dojo. They love it, So dojo was the first word that they used. It was one of the first. So when they come and see us, so they see my wife and I, it's like dojo. It's not grandma, granddad, it's a dojo. So dojo, they take their shoes off going into the dojo, so they have respect for where they're at. And I think it has that kind of feeling that, like I tried to build my dojo with a feeling of reverence. It's kind of almost peaceful, So if I'm not religious, I'm not a religious person, but I like going to old churches because when I go into an old church, doesn't matter, what the religion within the church, but there's a reverence in there.
Reverence is a good word. It feels like a really special place, no matter which dojo you go to. It's just you bow and there's a calmness before the storm of battle or whatever it is.
Yeah. And respect,
Yeah, respect.
I mean, look at the respect. We were just talking about it just before we came on air. We were just saying that we very, very seldom do we have a situation where there is animosity other than them fighting, So I'm not saying that they don't fight each other, because sometimes it does turn into a brawl. And at the end, two people bow off and show their respect, and one of the things that, so a champion, I see people winning events and they're good judoka, or they're excellent. They win world championships, might even win the Olympic Games. But a great champion for me is somebody who treats, who does the right thing when they lose, So when you see them lose, that's when you see the true them, and actually that was one of the biggest things that I had to really cope with, So when I lost that Olympic Games in Moscow and also the one in Los Angeles, the hardest thing is when the microphone's in there and you've got to be respectful and nice, and the hardest thing is to smile. But actually, some of the great champions, they'll go, well, it's just one match. I remember we've got one great champion, Agbeg Nanu. She's a 5-time world champion, she's an Olympic champion. She's favorite as well to get this Olympic gold medal, French. What a great champion she is, because she lost one of the matches. I mean, she'd come back and she'd given birth, come back after giving birth. And everybody was going, well, was she, but then she lost one of the matches on the way through. And she said, well, don't be upset. It's just one match. It's just one contest, Next time I'm going to put it right. And she did put it right. And now she's back up there and she won the world title back. So, these are great champions for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's the right way to see it. But it's also tragic to lose the Olympic Games,
Twice.
So.
Yes, it is tragic. And I do have sleepless nights.
I mean, that's the magic of the Olympic Games. Anything can happen. And your 1980 Olympics were very different from the 1984. But if we just linger on the 80, and just we were talking about how much you wanted to win. Do you love winning or hate losing more?
I hate losing more, but I love winning. When I won the world title a year later, and I had no doubt when I went in that day that I was going to be world champion. No doubt.
So you won the 81 World Championship
at the higher weight.
at the 78
Yes.
kg. Actually, can we go there? What was going through your mind? You ended up armbarring a Japanese fighter. I talked to Jimmy Pedro, a friend of yours, somebody who said you were a mentor to him for many years, and he's told me a bunch of different questions to ask you. But he said that was a really special time. That was a really special, like, dominant run you had. And especially finishing with an armbar against a Japanese player. So take me through that. What do you remember from that?
I think that it was so my weight was better. I didn't have to lose weight. That was one thing. So the nutritional side wasn't as important, but probably, it still wasn't as good as it could be, my nutrition. Although it was getting better and I was trying to eat the right things at the right time. But I still trained really well. And I was so confident there going into that World Championships that I could win it. I had no doubt in my mind that I was going to win. But, obviously, corner of your mind, you're thinking, just don't make mistakes. But, this is the incredible thing is that once you start to ask you, once I see contests change direction when I'm commentating, so I can see somebody who's in there just going forward, just trying to win, right? So and that's a difference to somebody who's trying not to lose. And there's two different ways there, so sometimes when when I was world champion, then I had a period of time where every time I stepped out there, I was really afraid of losing. And I think that that's what happens later on in your competitive career. The great champions manage to come through that. Teddy Riner is one of those, he puts it out there and he keeps beating them, so they can't take it away from him. It's fantastic.
So stepping on the mat, every single encounter, you're trying to win. You're looking for the grips and with the intention to throw big, even when you're ahead on points, all that kind of stuff.
That's a really good point, is that if you go ahead in a match and you look at the clock, it depends when you go ahead. So sometimes you can go ahead in the first minute and you've still got 3 minutes to go. So I see the ones then that go into, I don't want to lose, because they go into defensive mode. And then sometimes they can lose it on penalties or something can go wrong. And the other one comes on strong and then they can sneak the contest. And so it's really difficult. But when I was coaching, I was trying to always encourage that positive attitude for the full 4 minutes, 5 minutes then.
I've competed a lot in judo and jiu-jitsu. I've always hated that part of myself. When I'm up on points by a lot, you look at the clock, and it's what you do when you look at the clock. It's a minute and a half, you're really tired, and you kind of quit. You just defend.
Yeah.
And I hated that part about myself. It's like that.
You're saying don't do it.
Yeah. Well, as opposed to just go out in judo, that's for a big throw. Just keep going for the throw. In jiu-jitsu, it's go for the submission. Like, throw caution, like win in the real way versus on points. And I hated that part of myself. I mean, mostly underneath that is cowardice induced by exhaustion.
Exhaustion's the one, isn't it? You know, but it is, isn't it? It's a mindset as well. You know, so actually trying to get your mind positive all the way through. You know, so I mean, if you listen when I commentated now, I say I hope that they don't change the mindset and that they keep on, and they are going forward all the time, you know, and actually they're then more difficult to catch. We had one just a couple of weeks ago and he lost in the final second of the contest, lost the final. He was the only one to score. He got penalized all the way up. 2 seconds to go and stepped out of the area and, you know, but he went like that thinking the bell was just going and the bell went 1 second after he actually stepped out. So he got penalized, lost the match and lost all of the points for qualification. So it was, you know, that's paying high price. That's paying high price.
Yeah. I mean, there's a thin line between triumph and tragedy in those competitions, but especially at the Olympic Games. So let's just stick on 81 World Championship. What did it feel like to win that World Championship? Like, and also getting an arm bar against a Japanese player. Jimmy told me your arms were exhausted.
Yeah, I mean, you just, the thing is sometimes, when you're going, when it's competitive as well, ours is a different intensity to like, you just, where you can take time a little bit. Ours is bang, it's transitioning from standing down. You've got 10, 15 seconds to go in there. You go in 100%. It's a bit like running, full out for 10 seconds, like, and then you've got to decide then, especially if they're defending it, whether you let it go, because when you get up and your forearms are blown, and you've got lactic acid in there and you've still got to grip up, because remember, ours is about gripping as well on the jacket. So if you can't grip up, then you can't gain the advantage, then they can throw you, so you have to decide. So I had a massive attack on him, and we changed directions 4 or 5 times, and then I wasn't going to let him go. But I still, when I was turning him there, I had to decide, am I going to go all out for this and just, or, like there has been occasions when I've kind of released it to just, if I've got a minute to go and just lock out. Yeah.
So what you're saying on the feet, there was a change of direction, all different kinds of attempts, and then you went to the ground. And that's, so what was that? Do you remember that decision of like, okay, am I going to finish this?
Yeah, I knew it. I just, as soon as I climbed his back and then I thought I'm not going to let him up, so I was just changing.
Voice in your head.
Little something in my head was going, don't, just stick on him. And then it's always about pressure on the arm. And I just, and of course he was like that, defending, he was almost total bridge trying to get out of it.
Did it start in turtle and then did you flip
Started in turtle because I did an attack, came back out of the attack, and then he went onto his front. And then I was on his back, and then I started the whole
turn.
Saw
an opening, and you just went for it?
It was an automatic transition. So, I mean, the transitions are what we teach, because the ones that are quicker down with the transitions are the ones that catch it. That's our newaza. Our groundwork is the transition from standing down to ground. It's very, we don't have a situation where you can kind of work your way in. You are in or you're not in, you're standing, so you got to make sure that you're in. And so I was just on his back like a leech, and I never let him go.
So so that's where the arm bars, that's where the attacks on the ground, which is called newaza, happens, is in the transition. Yes. At that level, at that high world-class level.
Yeah, I mean, he was no mug either. I think he just got third place in the All Japan Championships, which is all weight categories. So he wasn't a mug, he was strong. And I'd fought him once before, and I knew he was a lefty as well, which was really awkward for me.
Did it feel good?
Better for me than him.
Did it?
It did. It felt amazing, because it was almost like all these things, disappointments and everything had kind of come to this one point where I was at last kind of champion of the world. It's everything I said as a kid that I had no idea how difficult it was going to be. So as a kid, as a 14-year-old kid, I remember saying, I'm going to be world champion. I'm going to be the best in the world. I had no idea how difficult that was going to be.
Well, there's wisdom to that, right? Like there's power and stupidity of youth.
I like that.
Right? Like,
yeah, it is.
Just like I'm going to be a world champ, I'm going to win this without knowing how hard it is. And then once you go after it, it's you're trapped. You're going to have to do the work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you see it a lot with parents as well, don't you? Parents, how little Johnny is, he's amazing and he's this, that, and the other. And they have no idea what's, out there. I remember the very first time I stepped out, 1974, into the European cadets. And I remember that we were fighting. I'd only ever fought in Great Britain. I was the top, I was unbeaten in the juniors, kids. And went out there, and there were these different fighters out there that were treating me with total disdain. And I remember thinking, how dare they? And I realized when I came back from that event, there's other people out there. There's just a whole, and there are different levels of, the majority of people are just not informed as to what's out there and the different levels that there are out there.
Do you remember like a certain opponent that for the first time you felt like, holy shit, like
Yeah.
there's like somebody just gripped you up and you're like, there's another
Yeah.
level to this game.
Ezio was one of them, and I fought him. And I beat him in the European Championships. I beat him in 2 times, and then lost to him in the Olympic Games 2 months after I'd beaten him in the European
Oh
Championship. Yeah.
wow!
So it wasn't
So
that
that's
made it even
literally
more
your
difficult, right?
nemesis there.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that made it more difficult. And so Ezio was one, and getting hold of. I remember getting hold of Nishida of Japan, and he had me going up and down, and I thought, wow, this guy is amazing, and I'd never fought. First time I ever fought Japanese in a major tournament, and I felt the danger. I always talk about the danger when we go out to Japan to train.
Mhm.
I could go probably months without getting thrown in training here in Europe, and I go to Japan, and everybody's throwing you, and that's difficult to accept. And the reason that kind of danger and that kind of a feeling of danger is something that puts a real edge on, and so that was the first time when I got hold of Nishida. I thought, oh my God, this guy, it didn't matter which way he was turning like that, he stretched out, and I thought I want to do this, and then I ended up fighting him again in Japan.
So that feeling of danger is really interesting. It's like I've did randori with a lot of world class people from different parts of the world, including Ilis Iliadis. And like there's certain part like Eastern European judo, you feel like you're screwed the whole way through. Like the gripping, you really feel it in the gripping.
It's the gripping that does it.
But with Japanese, like really good Japanese style judoka, you don't. It's a terrifying calmness. Or at least the experiences I've had, you don't really feel it in the gripping. You just feel like anywhere you step, you're getting thrown. It's a different
thing, isn't it?
It's a different thing.
So, I mean, mine was kind of a mixture. I liked it to be a mixture because there was the gripping is definitely the key point. So if you get high level guys that are gripping up, and I always used to put this to the referees when we were doing referee seminars when we first started them, and I'd say how many, because like they would referee to their understanding of the match. Mm-hmm. So they were penalizing for certain grips that were, and actually, so as an ex-athlete, high level, I would say, have you ever gripped up with high level? All right, because if you haven't, you need to do it, because then you will understand why they do certain things with the grips, because these guys are like, when somebody grips you and you think, you're going to go. When Iliadis puts his arm over your back, all right, and you're going to go up and over. Yeah. You're going to go over. That's it.
It's a cool feeling. It's like
not for me.
Well, I understand, but it's like, I mean, because it's not. It feels way more powerful than it should.
Yeah,
it's weird. I don't know. You want to attribute it to strength and all that kind of stuff. I mean, people say you have like immense upper body strength, but it's probably something else. It's like technique. Yeah. It's some kind of weird.
It's a mix of everything.
Just like something hardened through lots of battles and randori and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's cool that humans are able to generate that kind of power. It's cool.
When I was 84 Olympics, but I'm just going to go there now just quickly. Mm-hmm. But there was, we had a freestyle wrestler. He's American, actually, but he had English nationality. So he competed for Noel Loban, his name is. And he competed for Great Britain. He got third place at the Olympics in 84. But he was training. We were training at Budokai, and he was training. He came to do some judo and put jacket on. And, of course, he was training with some of the lower levels, and he was really handling himself well. And then he said, I need to feel, when we did randori, so he did some randori with me. And I immediately thought, I got to catch it. I got to stop single leg and double leg, because he was really quick, mm-hmm. right? So strong as well, 90-something kilos. He was like, nice. He's a big guy. So I caught his sleeve, immediately caught
Mm-hmm.
and controlled him. And then he couldn't start, right? So he said, I needed to feel the difference. So then I thought, I better reciprocate this. So I said, well, so we did the randori and I threw him a couple of times. He said, I'm really glad we did that. So then I said, I need to feel the difference as well. So we take the jackets off. So we took the jackets off and he was a nightmare. This guy was a nightmare and like a monster, and he was like single legging me and it was just totally different, so it was like the jacket makes a massive difference, huge difference to something, and people think it's just a jacket that we're wearing, but it isn't. It's our only tool, actually.
Yeah, and it's control. I mean, it's a way of establishing control over another body.
Yeah.
And it's a whole art form and a science. And I don't even know if you understand it really. You understand it sort of subconsciously through time.
Yeah.
Because there's so much involved. Because pulling on one part of the jacket pulls other parts of the jacket. And like the physics of that is probably insane to understand.
It's absolutely insane. And then, they changed the rules for a little while and they changed the rules so that you couldn't hold, that certain grips were not allowed. You only allowed a certain amount of time, and there were a lot of penalties for them, and then, they had some of the ex-fighters into the referee commission. And so we were pushing for just let them grip, because that's our game. That's what makes us different. Again, if grip up with somebody so they were on about Teddy Riner.
Yeah.
Teddy Riner comes out, takes the sleeve.
Yeah.
Big arm over the top, and then he throws people, right? So they were saying, yeah, but stop, you can't stop him doing it. This guy is 6'9", and he is built like Garth. He's like, and he's and not only that, he's skillful as well. And he's got that mentality of a winner. He has got that mentality of a winner. There, he just wins important matches.
And he goes over the top of the grip. Where's that land now in terms of rules over the top? Because those are some of the most epic, awesome types of grips.
Yeah.
Just like over the top, just big grab.
Yeah. Well, as long as they throw from it, so they can take any grip, as long as you move them and then catch them kind of action, reaction, really, as long as you catch them on the move, then you can do it.
So as long as you're not using it to stall or that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you can't block out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for example, if I've got dominant grip on you and I just block out and I just stop you attacking me. So then what? I get you 3 penalties, get you off, and you haven't done an attack. So you've got to stop that. You can't have that.
Yeah, definitely. You were the favorite to win the 1984 Olympics, but you got silver. I watched that match several times. You probably have it playing in your head. So there was a nice change of direction by your opponent, German Frank Winecki.
Yeah.
It was a fake right Uchimata, and then to a left drop Seoinage. How did that loss feel?
Devastating is not, it's not enough really. Because, the strange thing is coming into that Olympics, I was tired, really tired. So my mental state wasn't the best, wasn't certainly the same as it was coming into the previous. And I remember thinking, I just need to get this over with, and then I'm going to have a break and just have a rest, and that's totally the wrong attitude. It's just not good for going into an Olympic Games. And so I was coming in there with a different mindset. And I remember every match that I had, I was winning well, but I was winning with a struggle. It was really not. I'd fought Novak, and I was pretty of France, who was one of the strongest physically. That was in the quarterfinals. I beat Brett Barron by an ippon. I arm locked him. I won my first match by ippon as well, and then Michel Novak I was fighting of France, and I was lucky to win it. I was up, I was scored on him, but I was like starting to defend and just everything that I talked to you about, and then just about held on, and then I won, and so him and I were talking afterwards, like some years afterwards, and he said, I was close, wasn't I? Yeah, but not close enough. No. I didn't mean it.
Yeah.
But I had to say it, right?
Of course. Of course.
And no, he was right, and it was one of those. So I was through to the semi-final. I fought Lesak in the semi-final and I'd fought him in the semi-final of the Worlds as well. I'd never gone time with him, I'd always beaten him fairly easily and by Ippon, and that went time. So I was just glad to get it done, and I was in the final then against Frank Wienerker of Germany, and I'd beaten Wienerker before, but he was just a young German coming through. And when I started the final, I thought, right, I started all my techniques just that little bit off. Nothing was coordinated. I can't really explain why it was just a little bit off. I see it so often now with a lot of the guys that are going for second, third Olympic Games. And I see their technique just not quite there, and they're struggling. And I know when I know what they're going through, and I kind of empathize with them.
Well, it felt like you were dominating that final.
I dominated it. Yeah, I was winning. Yeah, I was. Yeah. And actually, if it had got another minute and a half, it would have been all over, and I would have been Olympic champion, and it would have been done. He wouldn't have batted an eyelid, right? Because he would have fought me really, really well, and he would have. We talked about it afterwards, and he said it was just my good day for me, and he knows. He was very respectful. Yeah. This guy is very respectful.
He was surprised almost. I mean, not almost. He was very surprised and celebrating like a surprise.
Yeah, jumping up and down like, he just, and, you can look at that, can't you? Go, well, it wasn't Ippon, but, would I got it back? I don't know. I think that actually taking the pressure off, because that was another thing as well, pressure of being favourite. And I see that with a lot of them. And, the great champions, the ones that keep coming through, Kapellik, there's a guy, he can look very ordinary, and then comes the big tournament and he'll win it.
The tragedy of the Olympic Games. I mean, you were the favorite, and just like that, like split moment, you lost it.
Split moment, devastating. And lived it. Probably not every day, but Nikki, my wife, will tell you that woken up in sweats, and I think they contributed as well, because I had a period of my life after where I was drinking too much, and I think kind of when I look back, kind of led into that kind of dark period of my life, and. I never, ever, ever, did it go through my mind anything else, but it definitely affected me, and I was on a downward kind of spiral in a lot of different ways, and would still, even, we have an amazing marriage, and we have an amazing family, and everything's great, but I still wake up sometimes and I'll say, I've just dreamt, that, and it's the same reoccurring dream where I'm trying to get somewhere and I'm trying to put it right, and I've got this chance of putting this Olympic final right, in this dream, I've got a chance of doing it, but I can't get there, and the traffic's stopping me, or something stops me, and and then I wake up and I'm sweating, and and you think, well, after all this time, that's not possible, but it is, and it happens.
Yeah, I mean, in the match itself, there's that feeling. For me, just watching it, like you're going for throws, you're almost getting there with the throws, and it's almost like he's going for a kind of crappy Uchimata, and then you're just like, you're stopping, you're blocking it, and all of a sudden, I mean, that's the beauty of the Olympics. He finds it in himself to switch.
Yeah.
In that, like, against a favorite, against sort of the great British judoka, just finds the perfect drop Seoinage.
His team doctor and coach, he came up to me afterwards and said, I'm just really sorry. And that's all they said is, I'm just really sorry. They were sorry because, obviously the obvious sadness about that, and of course, everybody takes their, I went actually 3 weeks later, the German Open. So he had to compete in the German Open. 3 weeks later. So I went over to fight him and beat him in the final of the German Open. And it didn't do anything for me because it was a much tighter match. He was a lot closer. He had a lot more confidence coming in. So he fought me a lot differently. And then it was me pulling it back and just managing to win in the final. And I thought, well, that might appease. It appeased nothing. Didn't do anything.
When you give your whole life to judo, and your love of winning, it's crazy how much the Olympic Games mean.
It means so much. And I think, but I've got to say this, and this is honestly, if it meant that if I'd have won that Olympic Games and it had changed my life into a different direction, which I probably would have not competed in the 88 Olympic Games then. All right. So if it had changed my life and then I didn't meet my wife and I didn't have my family that I've got now, there's no, I wouldn't swap what I've got now for anything.
Well, part of the demons that you've gotten to know because of those losses is part of probably the central reason that made you the man you are. A legend of the sport. You could have been not that. Because an Olympic gold is just an Olympic gold.
Yeah. And it is, isn't it? And I think that there's a lot of Olympic champions and world champions that win and then are forgotten. And I said to Nikki, I said, my wife, I said, I don't want to be forgotten and I want to be remembered. So if I'm going to do anything I do, if I'm going to do commentary or whatever it is, or coaching, I want to do coaching to a high level and I want to commentate at a high level. I remember the first commentary I ever did, it was terrible. And I just thought, I've got to do better than this. And I thought, I need to do it well. And I've got to do it professionally. So
in the book, A Game of Throws, you have a chapter titled Lessons in Losing. So what are some of the lessons here? What are some of the deeper lessons you've pulled out of losing?
I think great champions are made up of the people that handle it in the right way. And you could say, well, I don't like losing. And, and you could throw your dummy out the pram and you can be a bad loser in front of everybody. And actually, people pick up on that very, very quickly. You know what it's like in broadcasting, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody has a bad word to say about somebody, and and but actually, the ones that endear themselves to you are the ones that handle it in the right way, the correct way. Doesn't mean that you've got to like it. I didn't like it, and I thought that I handled it certainly in later years in the right way. And I like to see athletes do it in the right way, and I think it's a make or break situation. It's not all the contests they win, it's the one that they lose and then how they pick themselves up and handle themselves after. So I think that is a big one for me. And also, I mean, I went through, obviously a later divorce, and that was difficult on my son, really difficult on Ashley. And then I think that some of that was the fact that I was, I wasn't drinking all the time, but I was drinking in excess at the wrong times, and I think that that's what a lot of people do sometimes, is that they use it for the wrong reasons, and I used to hear it, I hear it now all the time, and is that, I need to knock the edge off and I need to just forget, and I need to, and you need to be in a fuzzy place for a while. And I had a lot of time in fuzzy place, and I needed to get rid of that, and I needed to clear my head.
Where was that place? Some of the lower points in your life that you've reached mentally?
I think, definitely, the fact that my first marriage didn't work, and that was, it's a mix of things that, between us. And then, so that's not where I wanted to be at the time. And the effects that it had on my son, and it took a long time for him then to come around and to trust me again, and to have belief. He always had belief in me, but to trust me again. And then I think that that was low. And I think that, when I look back, is that a lot of my bad decisions were when I was in that fuzzy kind of haze, and that it got progressively worse. That got progressively worse to the degree where it was, trying to hide it and trying to hide how much. And I was kind of a functioning kind of drunk. I think you could probably say that. And I was functioning. I was still training most days, crazily enough. I was training to kind of mask it and cover it. And that was probably my savior, that I was still, because I remember I said to my wife, I said to Nikki, I'm probably the fittest. If I'm, a drunk, then I'm the fittest drunk in the world. She said, yeah, you probably are, actually. You know what I mean? I was in great condition for a drunk.
So the fuzzy haze, where was your mind? Did you have periods of depression?
I had periods of depression. I can honestly say that my depression wasn't that bad, although I did, when it's like anything that gives you an up, it gives you an even bigger down, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And so I hated that feeling, and also hated myself for letting it happen, because I have got this really, it's a bizarre, I don't know whether you can call it a power, but I have the ability to be able to say, stop. And I can just, and that's what I did in the end. In the end, there was an incident when I was working for Belgium Judo, and there was an incident. It was Christmas. It was, I tell you exactly the day. It was 20th of December. And me and a Belgian coach, we got absolutely hammered. But we were at the wrong place, and it got noticed. And so I remember they pulled me up in front of this board, and I looked down at these guys, and half of them were people I didn't want to be in that situation with. They're not people that I respected, and they're not people that I trusted. So I said, if you're going to sack me, but I'll promise you now that I will just, this is it, I'll stop. I'm just going to stop. I've decided. On the way back in the car, I rang Nikki up, my wife, and I said, whatever you hear now, whatever, I'm just going to stop. So that was it. Stopped.
You just saw the moment and said, stop.
Stop.
So that fuzzy place, what advice could you give to people about how to overcome that dark place, the depression, whether it has to do with drinking or not?
I think if it's to do with drinking, all I can say is that the 2 days or a week into not drinking, you'll feel different. It'll make a physical difference, and you'll like that physical difference.
Mm-hmm.
And then from a mental perspective as well, because I think that, you have a massive downer, and I think that must be because of drugs as well, because I had a situation with my brother, he was like, he was professional wrestling, and the drugs was an element there. And, so I'd never touched a drug or even seen one in my life. But, I'd let the alcohol side go too far, and then decided never to do that. So then I guess I had people ringing me up, saying, how can we stop? So when they say, can I have a word and can I discuss something with you? And I know then what they want to discuss with me, and the thing is that I would say, if you stop, then feel the effects of it, and it will make a difference to your everyday life. And that will make a massive difference. And I think about anybody who kind of, is down all the time, is to find the cause of what's pushing you down, you know what I mean? And try and attack that. Because it's never, somebody once said to me, they said, whatever you got, we've got something special. I mean, we have a great life, and I've had a great competition record. It could have been better, but it was great. But I've had success with my business, and we're still out there, and we have a great life. We travel all the world, and there's people out there that would live in your house at the drop of a hat, wherever you are. They drive your car, no matter what car it is. Some people haven't got a car, and whatever food you're having, and you're moaning about food, right? That somebody out there that would take that and gladly eat that. All right. So there's always somebody worse off than you. Mm-hmm. And I think that we tend to sometimes, look at the things that we haven't got rather than the things we have got.
Yeah. It's a skill probably to be grateful for the things you have. Exactly as you said. And sometimes the little things like food and cars and all that kind of stuff. Just to have gratitude for, and family, all this kind of stuff. But it's still, having talked to a bunch of Olympic athletes, there's when you give so much of your life to winning and then you lose, sometimes even when you win, but when you lose at the very top, it's a tough thing to go through.
The most difficult thing, I think, for anybody is when they have to decide when to stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that all of a sudden, and I see the ones that are going to second Olympic Games and then the third Olympic, and the ones that are there and they're holding on and they're in their 30s now, different to when they were 19 years of age, 30 something is different to 19. And then what are you going to do afterwards? And then how do you become just a normal person? You're never going to be a normal person as such, but I think you've got to do normal things, and then I remember the first time that when I finished competition, I had good sponsors. This was, 40 years ago, but I had two really good sponsorships, Vitamin Company and also Judo Company. And I had a car and, I had money. And I was going all over the world. I was successful. And then I stopped. And they took everything back. They took my car. They did it within 2 weeks as well. They stopped my funding. And the Vitamin Company said, "Thank you very much. It's been a great. We've done well by you. Bye."
This was after your last Olympics.
88 Olympics.
Yeah.
It just, when that finished, and then that was it. And then it's right. Okay. First time I had to go in there and buy a tracksuit and a pair of training shoes. And, wow.
Yeah, those are different. Sitting there in the evening by yourself.
So you go from 7 days a week or 6 days a week going into the gym, and you're working out the dojo, and then you don't have to do it. And that's why you get a lot of, when they finish competition, they finish that 30 to 40. It's still, Ilias is still doing it now. He's still in there, and he's still, and because he can, right? Yeah. Okay. And it's natural. And I did exactly the same. And then, like I say, you just get to an age and you just think, I'm just going to kind of take a step back.
Which is why, there's certain athletes like Ryoko Tani never stops. It just dominates for 14 years. Probably one of the winningest athletes in judo.
Yeah.
7-time world champ, 2-time Olympic champ, medaled at 5 Olympics. So it's always impressive when
never
you have
stopped.
Never stopped. So that's an option if you're like the greatest ever.
It'd be interesting, wouldn't it, just to see what they're doing now? Because at some stage you have to get a normal.
You do
job.
have to stop.
You do have to stop. At some stage you have to decide what you're going to do. And it's either into coaching. The judo is either to coaching, or if you're not in coaching, then it's into something to do with the media. Mm-hmm. And, I was lucky that it was just by accident, really, with the commentary. Somebody said, would you do a voiceover? So I did this voiceover, and that was back in 1982. I did that.
So you've been commentating since 1982.
I did some voiceovers. I wouldn't call it commentating, but I did some voiceovers, and then I did some, we had some different European Championships, World Championship kind of events, and I did the voiceovers for it. And the way that it was done, it was more narration. And so it kind of turned into, then somebody asked me to do an event, And when you listen to the intonation of the voice and stuff like that, it wasn't like it is now. But I guess that's just something that developed as because then it was coming from the heart.
Mm-hmm.
And I, started to get excited and just do my thing. And it was just me, really. It's just my style.
Well, I've listened to your commentary from a while back. I don't know if it's the 80s, but it's still there.
I think it's timing as well, isn't it? It's like,
Sure.
you get your timing a bit better and know when to go in, when to come out, when to say something, when not, And I think that in the early days, I tended to want to talk all the time, and you don't have to do that.
Also knowing when to shut up.
That's the key, isn't it?
Yeah, part of the drama is in the silence, building up to the setup and the throw and all that kind of stuff. But also, you're very good at, while radiating passion, being very precise and specific about the details of the throw and the setup and why something worked and didn't. So
yeah, I think there's two kinds of commentating. You can commentate what you see, and then you commentate what people can't see, and so if you've got somebody that is not really understanding of what's happening in the inner part of the game, so it might be a technical thing, or it might be the tactical part of the play here that's going on, and if you can introduce that as well, then you've got an advantage.
Quick pause. I need a bathroom break.
Okay. Good stuff.
So we just took a little break and went to judotv.com, which is, I guess, an IGF website. And IGF is the organization behind a lot of the big judo events in the world. And I just signed up. You should sign up too. It's great.
Absolutely. You can sign up. Cheaper the price. Cheaper the price.
Yeah. And you can watch basically any match from the Grand Slams and going back through history, I guess.
Yeah, I've got to say, Lex, I mean, everybody, still people saying to me, we need more judo on television. They've got judo on television every other week that they can access. All of the top people in all the top events. And it costs $100 a year. It's to access everything, and they can play all the videos. I mean, we've just accessed this here, the Paris tournament, and we're going to have a look at Teddy Riner. But it's cheap at the price.
So we're now in Paris Grand Slam 2024 Teddy Riner final. By the way, it's super cool. Like, you click on the draw, and you can just look at any of the matches. You can go at the bottom of the finals. You can go.
Yeah, to any one.
Any one of them. That's so cool. It's really well done. Really well done interface. Anyway, let me at first ask the ridiculous big question. Who do you think is the greatest of all time? Is Teddy Riner in the writing?
He's the greatest judo winner of all time. Of that, there's no doubt. I mean, he is and I think if you asked him whether he was the greatest judo man in the world of all time, he would say, no, I'm not. And he's not the greatest judo man. Mm-hmm. There are people with, more beautiful judo in some ways, although he's got great technique. But he is the ultimate winner.
10-time world champ.
Yeah.
2-time gold medalist in the Olympics. I guess 2-time bronze medalist. He's probably going. Is he going to Paris?
Yeah,
he's going after it again. Yeah, so he's right here. I mean,
he's right there. This was just a couple of months ago, and then last week, he was out again, and he won again.
You think he gets gold medal this time?
There's people getting closer to him, right? Because he's obviously, his age-wise and the amount of time that he's been there, he's obviously somebody that is starting not quite at his best as he was when he was younger, but he, like I say, he still puts it on the line. He lays it on the line every single time. And then not only does he lay it on the line, but he beats them all, and last week he just beat Saito, who's a young up-and-coming Japanese fighter, and he beat him in the final. It was close, and he did well. There are certain people, the smaller ones, actually, not the taller ones, because we're saying about the big arm over the top that he likes and the dominant grip that he likes. There are people that can give him a hard time. Now, if at the Olympic Games he has 2 or 3 of those on the trot, it might work against him, and it's by no means an absolute certainty that he's going to win the Olympic gold medal. But he's got to be one of the favorites, top favorite. No matter what happens now, Teddy Riner is the greatest winner that, and if you asked the great Yamashita, he would say the same. There's nobody that's, and Yamashita was unbeaten in international competition. And I trained with Yamashita a lot over a 2-year period and got to know him quite well. And he was one of the greatest of all times. For me, he was one of the greatest judo men. And I'm talking about from a technical point of view, from a spectacular judo point of view, understanding the fundamental principles of how techniques work. Sometimes having, different techniques that work for you, so if one doesn't work and one particular direction doesn't work, you can change the direction completely.
In case people don't know, Yamashita is this legendary judoka, heavyweight. Teddy Riner, heavyweight. That's plus 100 kg. So he
would have caused him all sorts of problems.
Oh yeah, that's a cool. Who do you think wins, Yamashita?
Yes, I think Yamashita.
No,
but wait.
You think Yamashita beats Teddy Riner?
I think so.
Strong words. You think so? Yamashita is on the shorter side, right?
Yeah, and he finds it more difficult with shorter people, and so it would have been a very interesting confrontation. And I think if you asked Yamashita, he would probably say, that Teddy Riner, he's very gracious. He's really gracious. Mm-hmm. It would be really good. It would have been an unbelievable matchup. And I've got to say this, that, Teddy Riner is the greatest winner of all time.
Competition-wise. So it's interesting. Both of them, maybe you can correct me, but have this osotogari, which is kind of trip that I never understood.
Yeah.
Like it's a very tricky thing to do, right? It's very easy to do maybe as a white belt. You roll in, you can understand, but like to do it at the high level.
You see any of the top guys now, especially if they're second time out, so like they might catch somebody by surprise. They come out and they go bang, and you go, that was amazing, right? But if they fought again 10 minutes later, you go, you're not going to catch me with that, right? Yeah. You got a different situation here, and so it's slightly different. But the best fighters adapt like that, and they're able to see a situation, feel the situation, and they attack once and then go again and attack second, third time, and in the third time they make it work.
Yeah, both Yamashita and Teddy Riner with the Sotogari, they'll just like hit it over and over in the match.
Yeah, sometimes they'll hit first time and it won't go. Yeah. And then you make a readjustment of the way in. It's a little bit like, if you take a really easy way of understanding it is if we're shooting at a target and all of a sudden you start moving that target, it's different hitting a moving target, but it's also different hitting a moving target that's trying to hit you as well. And that's our game, right? So we're not only trying to throw a moving target, we're trying to throw a moving target that's trying to throw us. So that makes it even more difficult.
Yeah, there's a few folks who what's coming. It's like over and over and over, it's the same attack. Anyway, with this Uchimata, it's like it's different. It's different. And there's not many people like that where it's like the same attack. There's other attacks also, but they'll just go after the same thing over and over and over.
When I watch great athletes, most of them can throw over both flanks. Not always going left and right, although our sport always, the katas are always demonstrated left and right. So if you do something on one side, then can you demonstrate it on the other side, right? Okay, so can you do it equally? No, but you do it differently, right, on the other side. So, when I'm teaching, I don't teach left and right. I teach, so if I was teaching you to do a technique, first thing I'd do is say, I need you to take the sleeve and lapel. All right, so I'd let you decide what was left and right. Okay, because often what happens is we impart on people whether they're going to be left or right when we start teaching. You get a lot of teachers do that. All right, and they'll say immediately, what do you write with, left or right hand? And it's no indicator actually as to how we do judo, because I'm left-handed and I do more predominantly right-handed because I lead off my strongest hand. And actually, most people do, so actually left and right is a bit of a trap sometimes, when we're teaching. Better to get, because we can go. So my point is that a lot of people can go both flanks. So they'll do something over this side and something over this side.
But anyway, it was one-sided.
He was one-sided, but he could switch it. So he had a Cianagi as well on the other side. So he could switch it if he had to. Yeah.
And by the way, your opponent in 84, was he righty or lefty?
He was a righty.
So that drop left Seo. Where did that come from?
Well, I mean, again, it was, he could have probably, in other contests, he'd hit me with it several times and I just stopped it, and just at the wrong place at the right time for him. Right place and the wrong time for me, right?
That's life,
Yeah.
All right, let's watch some Teddy Riner.
This is final of Paris tournament. And this is against the Korean. The Korean had a great day, actually.
Again, shorter.
So he does find that difficult. Have a look at Teddy Riner. Teddy Riner will try and catch the sleeve. He's after the sleeve and then the right arm over the top. That's the key point for Teddy Riner. And of course, what he has done, if he can't always catch the big Osodogari over his right hand side, he's been doing something to the opposite side.
And the Korean just went for a drop sale. And Teddy Riner blocked with the hips. I mean, he's
like I say, he has difficulty always against somebody smaller, dropping with the Cianagis.
Has Teddy Riner ever been thrown for Ippon?
Never seen him thrown for Ippon, but he was thrown last week for a nice technique, and he's being caught more and more.
So it's getting close.
Yeah, and Tseyev in the final of the World Championships, they had a strange situation there where Tseyev was a technique down and then pulled off a counter, and they didn't count it, but then they overruled it. Unfortunately, I was commentating at the time, and I went for a score for Tseyev, and anyway, they overruled it, and then they awarded a second gold medal to Tseyev.
What can you say about Tamerlan Bashaev, who also gave him trouble?
Yeah, Bashaev and Tseyev are the two that could possibly go to the Olympics. So that was a close one there from Riner. That was closest that he'd actually been.
Oh, wow.
So didn't have the sleeve, and he relies on the sleeve greatly. Big support there from the French in the crowd.
And also, maybe can you explain the penalties for stalling?
Yeah, so if they don't attack, if they've got a grip, and they've got sleeve lapel, or they got two hands on. If they're too passive and they don't attack, if they've got dominant sleeve grip, they don't attack. That was quite close as well from the Korean. So the Korean here, you can see, is having a real go. The penalties will come if they don't attack at the right time. Step outside the yellow area, they'll get penalized as well. That
that's dedication for
absolutely. I mean, it was really close, wasn't it? They're nice little Kouchigari there from the Korean, and if they touch below the belt line with the arms, so if they're not allowed to grab the legs, they've stopped grabbing the legs.
Wow, the Koreans really going.
The Koreans having a real good go at it.
I guess every single person in that division is probably training for Teddy Riner, right?
You think that Teddy Riner's been there a long time, and he's got another guy here in the final of the Paris tournament. Yeah. He's got 18,000 people watching him. They're all on Teddy Riner's side. Yeah. They want him to win, and the Korean's out there on his own with his coach.
But also the pressure that on Teddy Riner.
Amazing pressure. We interviewed him after this, and he said, I've got pressure. People go, well, is he going to do it at the Olympic Games? Can I do it in Paris? He wanted to go to Paris. I mean, really, the last Olympic Games should have been it, shouldn't it? The last should have been the final one. But he's gone, no, I've got to do another 4 years. 2 penalties are on the board already for the Korean. That Korean is really having a great go.
He's got
Teddy Riner.
A bit of a lift on him. He's going after it.
He's really going after it. It's an amazing effort there from the Korean, and he's getting some last minute information. I don't know if you've ever seen his coach stood next to him like that, but it's amazing. He's 6'6", and he's about 4'6". He's a real pitch.
Full of passion. I love it.
Yeah.
He's like screaming.
So golden score.
How does golden score work? Can you say?
So the golden score. So if it goes without any point on the board from a throw or a hold down or arm lock strangle, then it goes into golden score. So 2 Shidos on the board apiece. One more mistake now, and it's going to be all over.
Oh, wow.
And that's it. Teddy Riner just manages to turn it on the Korean. And that went really against the run of play, didn't it?
Yeah.
Because the Korean did better, but, Teddy Riner is a winner.
Yeah.
And he says, right, okay, let's have more cheering.
Finds a way to score in the...
And I have to say, that even when he loses, he's always graceful.
Yeah.
He doesn't like it, but he's graceful.
Yeah, there was so much love there, celebration. It's great. It's great to see. It's great that he's doing it again, going after it, chasing the gold medal again.
Well, he's chasing the gold medal. It's going to be in Paris, which is going to be even, more fantastic. He's already the greatest. You said, what has he got to do to be the greatest? He's already the greatest competitor judo's ever known. And that was even... with the great Tani,
Mm-hmm.
So Tani was amazing as well.
Are you part of the commentating team for Paris?
I'm part of the commentating team, but it won't be for IJF because it's independent broadcast.
Have you ever had an athlete sort of come up to you and ask like, why'd you say that? Or like disagree with your commentary?
Do you know, I've got to say that 99.9% of everybody is so grateful that I've commentated their fights all the way through.
Yeah.
They know if they've messed up. Mm-hmm. So if I say something, and I'm never really disparaging, but what I will say is, it was a great throw by the other guy, or it was a great match. And if they made a mistake, so if they walk out, they know that I will say something that will, mean something. So nobody really moans about it. I try and talk the truth if I can.
So who else would you consider as some of the greats? So I personally just, because I love the standing Seoinage, Koga. So there's like, the number of times you won the world championships and the Olympic Games. But there's also like how you won and how you went into fights and what you did. It's not necessarily about getting gold medals. It's about how you fought and how you represent the sport. And there's certain athletes like Inoue and Iliadis that are going after the big throws.
Only after they want to win by ippon, and I think that is the difference. Is they're the ones that come out there, and it's a bit like when Tyson stepped out there, you knew what you were going to get, and if they went toe to toe, if Tyson had somebody going toe to toe, somebody was going to get knocked out. Mm-hmm. And we got the same in judo when people go head to head and it's an open match. And I often talk about an open match. I say it's an open match. They're both trying to score. Somebody is going to get scored on. Somebody's going to go. And that makes it exciting.
That's
and it's
so great.
When they come out and they close up, then that's not an exciting match.
Is there a case for Ono, Shohei Ono, 3-time world champ, 2-time gold medalist?
I think that judo wise, he's got to be one of the greatest because he had such versatility. He could go right and he could go left. Mm-hmm. He could pick up. He could go to the ground as well. He won a lot of his earlier matches on the ground. I think his empathy, and how he presents himself, sometimes he falls down. And I think that hopefully that should come with tutoring and, of how to be a great champion after, it's not just about what you do on the mat, but what you do off the mat as well.
So to you, a great champion is the whole package of how you present yourself when you lose, how you represent yourself just off the mat.
I think it's how you present yourself afterwards, how you are with people, how much you can help people. I mean, kids and they look up to these great champions because they want to be like them.
Mm-hmm.
So the worst thing is when you get somebody that's a bit of an arse and they're not presenting themselves in the right way. So I like to see somebody presenting themselves in the right way. And I think that it's something that can be taught. It's something that normally comes with a little bit of experience, a little bit of age, and I like to think that I'm a little bit different now than I was when I was 19. Not that it was bad, I just think I was just, I see it often now, just full of beans.
You're a beautiful work in progress. What about Nomura? Did I hear Nomura? That's 3-time gold medalist.
Never lost an Olympic fight. So there's
something there,
nobody,
right?
nobody ever done that. You know what I mean? So that's got to be, it has to stand. He took 2 years off in between every Olympic Games and came back, did the right amount of events to qualify for, not only did he having to qualify, he had to qualify through Japan. Now, Japan, remember, have got the greatest depth. So they got people coming through all the time, and then he had to win the Japanese trials. I mean, we had a 4-time world champion from Japan. This is when World Championships was every other year. And this is Shozo Fuji. And he was the greatest middleweight of all time. And never got to participate in the Olympics because he lost the Japanese trials twice in 2 Olympic, possibilities. So, he had to qualify for Japan and then go to the Olympic Games and then do it there, So sometimes some of the best people in Japan can't get outside of Japan. Look at the situation they had with Abe, and then they had Mariyama. Mariyama was, and Abe were both the best by far in the under 66 kilos category. This is for the last Olympic Games. And they sent one to the World Championships, one to the Olympic Games, and they both won gold medals,
Yeah. I mean, that's why the All Japan Championships is like legendary. But there's these battles, with Yamashita and all of them.
Well, Abe and Mariyama, they had a trials in the Kodokan. It was 26 minutes. I think it was 26 minutes it went. They were battling it out for 26 minutes.
That's great. If we can just go to, you've trained in Japan. What are those randores like? What's that training like?
I touched on the danger, that danger of being thrown when you get hold of somebody or somebody gets hold of you. And I often talk about it when I'm commentating, because I can see immediately, it's easy, isn't it? We're in the commentary chair, or if you're in the coach's chair and you don't really understand totally, absolutely what's going on when somebody's being out-gripped. And when they're in danger of being thrown, I mean, if you're in danger of being thrown, the first thing you do is stick your backside out and defend by not being in the position they want you to be in. All right. And so that's danger. You feel the danger. And so in Japan, that was the place I used to go to train because I felt the danger. And so my defenses would be heightened. And so I went two years, one Olympic cycle, I went 2 years, 2 months without having a score on me in any competition. And then I went to one competition in the European Championships, which I won, and I was struggling all the way through it and got scored on 3 times in my pool of my first pool of fights. And I was devastated. I actually nearly lost the whole competition because I was more mortified about being scored on 3 times when I hadn't been scored on for 2.5 years. I had this thing in my head about 2.5 years. And then all of a sudden, right, I'm not unbeatable. And then you go, and I was almost lost it, completely lost it. Just so fortunate. Couple of things went my way and just came out, and I scraped and scratched my way to the final and won the final well. All right. But that was my best match, but I almost lost it.
Well, what do you do with the fact that if you go to Japan and you're saying danger, like, You're probably
getting thrown.
Getting thrown in
Yeah.
Japan. What's that do to your ego?
Well, again, it's my, that was a winning ego that had to adapt. I remember we went to the police dojo one time, and they wanted to see they created this the groundwork competition because they wanted to see me do the juji, like how I went in and how how the armbar, right? They wanted to see how I did it from underneath or over the top, and so they created this event.
Studied the creature.
Yeah, they started it. So, and then winner stays on competition was happening at the Keijo. So I did about 7, I think it was 7 in, and then my coach came in and said, "No, it's finished. That's it now. It's finished." Suddenly we realized what was going on, and I was going, "No, don't stop it like that,"
Yeah.
and it was one of those moments where, the boot was on my foot, you could say, rather than the other side, the other way, because I had been to Japan in situations. I remember as a 16-year-old, I got such a drumming from one of the Japanese guys, older students, and he had a gold tooth. And so he was gold tooth to me, and he was my nightmare. And I remember kept coming out to fight him because he kept throwing me, and I was crying and I was upset, and I was like, and then that was another occasion where I got dragged away, and I said no, and so I wanted to go back and fight him, and I went back to the same dojo every year to fight him. He was on my mind. Morning, noon, night, he was on my mind.
Gold tooth was on your mind.
Gold tooth was on my mind, And
Did you ever get him?
2 years later, I was 2 years to me from 16 to 18 was totally different. 18 years of age, I was pretty competitive with him, and it was like I was standing up with him. 19, he was in the groundwork competition.
And that's when the switch happened.
Because because I remember getting the arm lock and it didn't put it on immediately. I needed it to last. It had to last.
Sure.
So I spread it. The whole thing lasted as long as I could possibly get it. And it was a long memory.
Yeah.
As I was looking down at him.
And now he has nightmares about you.
Now he has.
I wonder what nickname he has for you.
I don't know. I'm hoping that he remembers me as
he has a photo of you.
You know what? He probably doesn't say. He just bat an eyelid. Doesn't say a thing about it.
Well, I mean, can you just speak to that training with those folks? You said crying, just the frustration of being thrown.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you, it's such a beautiful part of the process of becoming great.
Yeah, I think it is just something that that doesn't happen at this level. We were talking about levels, and then at this level, it never happened. And then I went out in my first European cadet, and all of a sudden I wasn't this top guy. I was in the mix, and then I had to work myself to the top of that mix, and then to the top of the next one, because I went to the European Senior Championships, and again, you're not the top, and you work your way to the top of that, and I think it is a frustration, but I think it's that kind of hatred of losing and also being out of control. I think that the first senior European championships I fought Nevzorov, but he was only one of my contests. Then I had to fight a Frenchman for third place, but he totally outgripped me. And I remember I was more upset. Though I won the contest, I was more upset that he did outgrip me. And I was more upset. And then I fought him a year later and outgripped him. All right. So it was one of those, it was a learning process all the way through.
Yeah. That frustration is whatever that does to your soul, the building up afterwards is what actually makes you better. It's fascinating. And you think there's in Japan just killers there that are just the world doesn't know about? They just
yeah, there's world champions in the dojo. there's people that never make it out.
Yeah.
I remember we were training so, and everybody that goes to Japan, all my friends, that have been world Olympic champions, right? They all know what I'm talking about. They know exactly what I'm saying is that when we go to the dojos there, we all get thrown by people that never come out to be world champions. They're just in the mix, or they're going through 3 years of university, and then they go. We had a guy. We had a guy that came in. He was a business guy. He came in with his suitcase and his briefcase like that. He's got his tie up like that. And so he decides he's going to come in, and he gets changed, and he's in his lunch hour. He's in his lunch hour, right?
Yeah.
So it's got to be quick.
Yeah.
So he comes in and he goes through, he's working his way through the whole of the British team. So we're all lined out, right? So he's just working his way through the whole of the British team. And I knew it's my turn next. So, I get hold of him and I throw him immediately. And then it was what we were talking about when it happens in the first few seconds of the practice. So then I had 4 minutes of him coming at me, and I'm going up into the air and I'm twisting off, and I'm like that. And then everybody's laughing at the side of the mat, or the whole British team. He's gone through the whole British team, and then 10 minutes later, he's just tying his tie up like that, and back to work like that. Imagine him sitting behind his desk and his computer.
Yeah.
I'm glad he didn't get out.
Hopefully he listens to this.
Hopefully.
Anybody else I didn't mention as part of the greats that just kind of jumped to you?
Kashiwazaki Sensei is the my favorite of all favorites. He is what I would call a judo genius. I don't know if you can get him up here. Can we get him up?
Yeah.
So go into 1981 World Championships, and I'll talk you through the great Kashiwazaki. He was 1 year in Great Britain, and he was a guy that was so much a genius. All right, so you want the final of the under 65 kilograms there, the one at the top. This is him. He is 2 weight categories below my weight category that I won the World Championships. Same year, I won it. So I'm not sure if this is going to show his final of.
This is a highlight.
Oh no! So watch this. This he did in the final. In the final of the world.
For people just listening, he did an incredible sacrifice throw.
Yeah, and then he was on top for the Newaze, and renowned for his groundwork. And he was on top against a really strong Romanian guy. All right, so his transition was just phenomenal.
Yeah, let me go back and look at that. What just happened?
So he's just showing you. So he does this coachy thing just to create space, and it's his follow through into groundwork that is best of all. And then the Romanian really strong, like I say, he'd gone all the way through to the final of the World Championships, winning most by Ippon, I think, the Romanian. And he's defending really, really well here. And you can see that how persistent he knows exactly what he wants. He's just got to get his leg out. Now watch, he'll tie the arm up and then he'll pull the top leg towards him, and then he'll push the bottom one off.
Always working.
With both feet. Always working. Readjust the balance. Still one leg trapped. Final of the World Championships. Good referee, because he's refereeing something here that's happening, that's going to decide as to whether. So he doesn't call it to stand it up at all. Watch him pull the top one now, and he'll push the bottom one.
There's a calmness on his face.
Calm.
Which is great to see.
Calm. Pushes the bottom leg out. Job done. All finished. This is him again. Watch this. This is another technique that he does. Sacrifice. And then just, again, sacrifice directly into the Newaza.
Transition is everything, isn't it?
In judo.
Yeah.
In
anything, really, but judo especially pays off.
Yeah, I mean, because we haven't got that long. I mean, we had more time here. They've just brought more time back, so we've got more time to transition in. and to get the situation that we want, and to get the attacking situation that we want. Because, I remember I was teaching in America to some jiu-jitsu guys, and they were saying, "Oh, we'll never give you our back."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, with judo rules, certain situations, it happens that, when we try and do throws where we're facing away
Mm-hmm.
from our opponent, so like, for example, Sienagis,
Mm-hmm.
if they fail, then the back is there, and that's how we get the back. And it's a different situation, than going on your back in the guard situation. Totally different.
Well, there, Travis Stevens, I don't know how familiar with his judo, but he's a really interesting example because he competed at the highest level in jiu-jitsu as well. And his idea, he's a big Seoinage guy, and he basically threw all of that away.
In the jiu-jitsu.
Like, he took the sport from scratch for what it is. So he almost never did a standing Seoinages at all in jiu-jitsu.
No, because he would leave his back all the time, if it failed.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? But he wouldn't have the same kind of grip on the judo-gi or the karate, the jiu-jitsu-gi.
Yeah.
A little bit different.
And so you have to kind of consider the sport, the art of it, and also the competitors, the styles, and the culture of the sport if you want to win. If winning is the most important thing, then you're like, all right, well, let's.
But you learn the game, don't you? And that's what he did. He learned the game, And I think that is credit to him, And that's why I was saying about wrestling, the wrestlers. I mean, good to learn the judo and for what it is and the mechanics and how it works, and then learn the wrestling. I mean, I do the commentary as well for the freestyle, and I will be at the Olympics for the freestyle and the Greco-Roman. So, and I love the freestyle, absolutely love it. Mm-hmm. But freestyle is freestyle, judo is judo. I like to see people doing judo.
Yeah, but there's a rhyme to the whole combat thing. They're all, I mean, the body mechanics. It's all like fascinating echoes of each other in interesting ways. There's the details are different, but there's still two humans clashing.
Yeah, we've got some amazing crossovers with people like the Mongolians have come in, the Georgians. I mean, the Georgians do massive pickups and different techniques. And, if you ask the fighters whether, grabbing the legs, a lot of them would say some of the wrestling styles, the Georgians and the Mongolians might say, yeah, I'd like to be able to take the legs. But, a lot of them just adapted. You get Iliadis, for example. He just adapted. Yeah. So he thought, well, I'll take my arm over the top and I'll just rip them out the floor that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They're still doing the big lifts. They're still doing the big ripping, but they just don't grab below the legs.
Yeah.
It's weird. Yeah. They figured it out.
And they figured it out like that.
Yeah. You would think it'd take a long time. No. It was like a month.
Yeah. No, exactly.
At the highest level, which is crazy. So you mentioned jiu-jitsu a little bit. What do you use an interesting difference between jiu-jitsu and judo that you've observed? Because you're one of the greatest ever on the ground in judo. And so, jiu-jitsu is primarily focused on similar type of stuff on the ground. So what do you use an interesting difference there?
They're a different approach, different time scale to them, and they have a different way in. So like ours comes from a standing position directly in. We've got a time scale on it. So we have to, like the catch. I always talk about the catch, because in judo terms, if you don't get the catch immediately, then the referee won't see the transition in, and also the continuation from plan A, B, C, D. If something builds, so we have to build it. And we have to build it quickly. And I think in jiu-jitsu terms, you have more time to build.
Yeah, there's a kind of patience, like, oh, if this doesn't work out, I can try a different thing.
Yeah, just
with judo, there's like an urgency, like
there's
this
an
urgency. Everything, and there's a ref watching skeptically, so you better show that you're making progress.
You've got to show the progression. And that's why, I always had a plan A, B, C. You see there with, that was 1981 there. The great Kashiwazaki had a progression. Everything was, he knew exactly where he had to be. It was feel, that wasn't by accident. It was trained. And I think that transition there and taking control of somebody's mistake. So somebody might have made a mistake or not hit properly, or your defense has caused them to make a mistake, and then you take advantage of it. And that is the difference.
So one of the side effects of that, I don't know, with the chicken or the egg, but judo people on the ground are much more aggressive. So probably because of the urgency, but just like there's an intention behind the progress you're making. I think jiu-jitsu is more relaxed. There's more a culture of just finding places to relax and think of different control and positions and take your time. And as a result, it's much, much less exhausting. So you can go for much longer. Feels like judo is exhausting.
It's that 10-second blast, isn't it? It's like doing sprints all the time. And that is really hard. And that's a special kind of condition you need. And you need to be able to catch it and know when to go and when not to go. And I think also, I know I was going to ask you, you think it make a difference? I mean, certain jiu-jitsu, you can't just throw yourself on your back, into the guard. You have to throw into the situation, what I mean? So you have got, I know Roger Gracie, he decided that he was going to learn judo. He saw the importance of being able to throw for the transition in. And so he came to the Budokai and he was learning off Ray Stevens, and, they were doing really a lot of judo.
Well, he's a fascinating study because he does the most basic stuff. And he does
it well.
Like we did, like another level of well. It's like Yamashita. Everyone knows what's coming with Roger Gracie. But he just does it anyway against the best people in the world. It's crazy. He's like, everybody in jiu-jitsu at white belt learns the techniques he's using, and he just does it.
Amazing, isn't it? Yeah. But he has about 1,000 ways in.
Yeah. I mean, and the 1,000 ways are in the details, so it kind of might even look the same to people. But he finds a way to choke people. So he's on top of them, mounted in a sort of judo pin position, and everyone knows what's coming next against the best people in the world, and you should be able to defend it, but nobody can. It's crazy.
I think there's the power element as well, that you don't realize how, when somebody's directed in a particular way, then you have that kind of element of absolute power that you can only feel like when Roger's doing a technique. I think that you would only feel it if he did it on you, then you can feel it. It's not something that happens, so tricks is one thing, but actually being able to do something really well from a power point of view, it's like you say, he only does those few things, but he does them really, really, really well.
Yeah, I don't know what that is about. Actually, judo pins is a very interesting case study as well, because people are able to feel so heavy. One of the things judoka are able to do is pin extremely well.
Yeah.
And it makes you realize that it's not about the weight. It's about some kind of technique that makes people feel like they weigh 1,000 pounds.
It's about weight distribution and change of balance. What a lot of people don't realize, that there's huge changes of balance on the ground. Massive, what it's like. You're a jiu-jitsu man, and the detail of the techniques is what really interests me. I'm always looking small ideas. I'm always looking at the jiu-jitsu, and it fascinates me. I would have done jiu-jitsu for sure, but I wouldn't have forgotten the judo way in to the techniques. You know what I mean? I think that you've got to differentiate the two. But I would have loved the jiu-jitsu. I would have absolutely loved it. But it wasn't as prominent then. Where the newaza came from, it came from a mistake, me getting beaten in a particular contest, and I went, I'm not going to be beaten again on the ground.
That's
That's
oh
how it
man.
happened.
Yeah, well, yeah, this story of your life is like a loss creates the
It
phoenix rises
Well,
from the ash.
it was 1978, and it was it wasn't a mistake. It was a particular movement, and I was fighting weight up
Hmm.
from what my normal weight, but I stayed in the same position for 1 second too long, got caught, and
Choked.
Sangaku, yeah,
Hmm.
triangle,
Wow.
and I said, I literally, just the same as I said to you when I said, I'm not going to drink anymore. I came off and I said, I'm never going to get caught on the ground
Yeah, never gonna
again.
lose on the ground
And
ever
I never
again.
lost in my whole competitive career again.
Wow, but yeah, I should mention that there's nothing like a pin from a judo person, and I
Yeah.
don't actually know if people in jiu-jitsu have made sense of that, like loaded that in.
But it's not part of the game, is it? The pin, it's submission.
Yeah, but
You can move
control
in.
is part of the game,
Right.
and nobody controls a human body the way judo people do on the ground. Like they have understood the science of control, and I think that's control is extremely useful in jiu-jitsu as well. It's just that people don't, because there's so many other domains of exploration. But
That's interesting.
I mean, just and especially when you apply jiu-jitsu to the fighting setting, so mixed martial arts, that control, that side control, that pin control is really, really, really important. So, but then you add punching to the thing, and it becomes
That puts a whole different thing on it, doesn't it?
I mean, there's an alternate history where you would have been part of the early UFCs if time was a little different. Maybe a few years later, because your style of judo and jiu-jitsu and the transitions and the aggression and all of that would have worked really well in the early UFCs.
I'm sure I was being set up at one stage by one of the Graces, and that was when he was winning all the matches.
Yeah,
But he came with a couple of the cousins to one of my seminars.
nice.
And he was one of the first ones, wasn't he? That's how I love to see the kind of UFC, because it was different martial arts, different skills, and I mean, he'd get close and he'd just choke them out or arm lock them or arm bar them, and that was brilliant. That was, for me, that was a revelation. That was how I saw it.
Yeah,
And
it's a fascinating science
yeah.
experiment. Which aspects of different martial arts work well and not when they clash together. And it did turn out that Newaza worked
Was the
well.
key, yeah. It was the key, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a big missing link in our conception of fighting. It's the neutralizer of size and a lot of other components. And it just blew people's mind that, like, oh, okay, it's not just about size. It's not just about big guys swinging hands. It's a lot of other components, and the groundwork is really, really important. And of course, there's a few judoka that succeeded in the UFC since then, which is always interesting how they adapt to without, when you take off the gi, how can you still throw people? How can you still do control? How can you still take advantage of the transition on the ground? Ronda Rousey is a good example of somebody that took advantage of that.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things for the judoka is we've never, there's no strikes. And I think that's the biggest shock, if you wish.
Oh.
The when you get
punched in the face.
When you get punched in the face, and you're not used to that. That's not what we're used to.
Some people are able to get punched in the face better than others. Yeah, for sure. Then again, there's Ronda Rousey who doesn't need to get punched in the face. She just gets in close, throws a person, armbar right there.
Yeah, and Kayla. Kayla as well.
Kayla Harrison,
Wow.
That's another incredible person. She could have probably been just winning Olympic gold medal after Olympic gold medal, but chose to
whatever she decides. I mean, Ronda as well. Whatever they decided to do, they're great athletes. They hate losing. I don't know anybody that hates losing more than those two. They don't like it.
And Kayla Harrison, like, I don't know anybody that works as hard as her. That's a crazy, crazy, crazy work ethic. Well, let me ask you about training. Again, Jimmy Pedro said he learned a lot from you. he learned how to do taitoshi and the armbar jijikatami, but he also learned from you training methodology. So what's he talking about? He told me about this. What's your approach to training throughout your career and as it developed?
I always wanted to train harder than anybody else. I still train now every day. If I don't train, do something, I do an hour of my physical work, and I still go on the mat a little bit. I'm 65 now, and so I'm not doing really heavy stuff on the mat, but I still like to train. And when I was 21, 20, up to 30, I was one of the best trainers. But, Jimmy Pedro was one of the best trainers as well. He was one of the, he's one of your dream athletes. When Jimmy Pedro steps through your door, and he was just a kid, he was just young when he stepped through my door. And I had a lot of full-time trainers. So I had up to 20 really good athletes that were training hard. And I only wanted hard trainers. Give me 10 that trained hard rather than your one prima donna that, you're skillful, the one that could do it. I wanted 10, or 20 really hard trainers, because you can do so much with them. You can make champions. You can make them world champions. If you got somebody that was a special talent and they wanted to work hard, then you had a special athlete.
Well, when you say hard trainers, what do you mean? Are these people that just every single day are able to just grind it out, do randori, do the training, do the boring things, just keep coming back?
Yeah, when the going gets tough, and I think that was him. He had a special mentality, and and the thing is, you see, when you got him in your dojo, all right, even when you're tired, when somebody's tired, and when what an example to the others. So he'd pull the other ones in as well, So I had somebody that when everybody was tired and everybody was sick of it, and everybody just wanted to, and he'd still be there, so they had to do it. So that was for me a win-win. So I had all the Americans actually. I had Bobby Berland, and I had Michael Swain, and I had Ed Liddy, and I had them all coming to visit me at different times. Jimmy was there. They wanted to be the best. In the end, we had such a great club atmosphere. They wanted to come for the hard work, and they knew that if they came, they were going to be dragged out, and we were going to do physical training, and it was physical training like they hadn't done before. But it wasn't just the physical training; it was the judo and the skill side of it as well. And so I always had a great empathy with the U.S. team, Olympic team. So a lot of your Olympic medalists have been through with me, and so I'm proud of that, because we had some great times, and they're still great mates now. And so in New York, in a couple of weeks' time, I'm going to have everybody is going to be there. They're all coming in.
Old friends.
All old friends.
And new friends. So what's a tough week look like at your peak? Physical training, randori, is there days off? Are you training like twice a day?
Twice a day. So we do the preparation training, we do the running, we do the weight training, we do the skills in the morning as well. The skills is, for me, one of the biggest advantages that any full-time trainers can have, because what happens is that with most clubs, you're trying to fit everything into that hour and a half or 2 hours. You fit your skills, you fit your physical training, and your sparring, and your everything's in there, all grouped in. So the biggest advantages of having a full-time group is that you can split your skills, and your skills lay your foundation. So the biggest advantage is being able to work specifically on things without having to worry about getting to do your your randori or your sparring, or then you got to go out you just do the skills.
Well, when you talk about skills, like what is, say your specialty is a taitoshi, what are we talking about? Uchikomi, doing a bunch of fists, working with bands? Are you doing throws? Are you actually just having conversations about like specific, like tiny details of throws? Like what does skills mean?
All those things about doing your repetition practice, making sure the repetition's correct. There's good repetition.
So when we say good repetition, uchikomi when you're just fitting the throw versus doing the throw? Where do you land on the value
and
of
getting
both?
it moving, so one of the biggest, most important things is getting it moving. If we do something static, again, it's that static target. You need to get it moving. So you need to do a repetition, and also you need to do a correct repetition, because if you're doing 100 the repetitions that are not correct, and repetitions under pressure, too much pressure, without somebody overseeing those skills to make sure that you correct the skills. Because if you're doing a skill, if you're doing it 99 times incorrectly, all right, then repetition doesn't make perfect. Repetition makes permanent. So you got to make it as perfect as you possibly can. So actually, that skills group there is the most important thing. And what I used to do is oversee it. So I'd oversee it to make sure that it was done properly.
So you're watching the footwork, you're watching the gripping, and then just constantly adjusting people.
I'll give you an example. Jimmy Pedro. Jimmy was one of the hardest when he was 19 years of age, right? So he'd always asking me to practice, always. So he's always on me all the time. So I do groundwork with him. And could I put him on his back? No. I was all on him, and he'll tell you, but he was just, wouldn't go. He was going to be great, without a doubt. All right. So I wanted everybody on with him. Everybody. So everybody went on with him, and so it only improved their game, and it improved him. And then with, small technical things that have stayed with him that we were doing with the Jujigatami that was passed on to Kayla and then gone on, to Rhonda. And it's all small things that I can see sometimes that, it's passed on.
What about the Taitoshi? He said he learned a lot from you from that throw.
Yeah, and he does it differently.
And so I should mention that's one of the trickier throw. I mean, I still don't understand.
It is a tricky throw.
I don't understand. So for people who don't know, it boy, how would you even explain it? It doesn't make any sense. It's when you just look solo, the movement you make is quite simple, but how you get person to be off balance, how you actually get them to be thrown, and when you do throw it successfully, it looks like a whipping motion that's effortless. It makes no sense.
It makes no sense other than it's every technique starts with the hands. Yeah. So it's what we call kazushi, and you're pulling somebody off balance, getting them moving, pulling them off balance. Taitoshi means body drop. So it's basically 2 legs across your partner's body. Well, I've got my back to you, all right, and I've already pulled you off balance with my hands, and then I'm going to just flex my legs up just as you're coming onto my back, and then you're going to go over. If I coordinated all right, if it doesn't get coordinated right, then you're going to come right on my back and try to rip my arm off. So I've got to get it right.
What was if you can convert it to words? Some secret ingredients that allowed you to pull it off at the highest levels, the Taitoshi?
The hands start every technique. So getting the repetition right, first of all. So you need, to get the repetition right, you need a good partner. So actually training your partner to react in the right way is just as important as learning the throw. So actually what happens is, we could get a lesson of beginners. We teach the throw, and then go, right, off you go. And 90% of them will get it wrong because their partner's not reacting in the right way. So half of it is to get the person to react as they should. So if I was doing it with you and I, first thing I teach you to do is to react the way I want you to react. And then I'd react the way that you want me to react. All right. So then we'd have success with it rather than you leaning back in the wrong way or resisting or frightened you going over. So, so actually that's why 9 times out of 10 people get the technique wrong.
It's actually fascinating to me because in the United States where I came up, judo, I mean, the level of judo is not comparable to the level of judo in the rest of the world. Of course, the Pedro Center is an exception to that. So
certain athletes, yeah.
Certain athletes, like, I mean, when I trained recently with Jimmy Pedro, it's like even like the 16-year-old kids are just all deadly. So it was terrifying. But, I remember the Russian national team came through Philadelphia. And one of the things that really impressed me is just how much easier judo was, training judo with them. They moved correctly as like Uke said, as the people getting thrown. Every aspect of their body movement was correct in terms of it felt right to be throwing them, to be training with them. Everything about the gripping, about the position of their hips, about the shoulder, everything. It was fun. It was easy and I always felt like I was learning. So I think all of that is loaded in, I guess, into proper training. So you're developing through the throws, you're developing the
You've got
right
to
technique.
develop. Yeah, you have to develop between, I always had training partners that I trained with up to each Olympic Games, and we worked together we did the skills together, and then we worked together in order to make techniques work, and we got it moving as quickly as we could. And one of the worst things that I see is, and I see a lot of YouTube stuff with coaches.
Here we go.
Oh,
Okay,
don't even
Adam's
start
upset.
me on that. Don't even start me on that. But
what
you're laughing because you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. Okay, no, I'm actually laughing because I'm enjoying you talking trash. But but you're talking about technique.
Yeah, just the coaches and their clipboard guys, with the clipboards and the stopwatches, and they got these kids running up and down the mat and then doing uchikomi of something that's technically incorrect, 10 times, and then running up and doing another 10 at the other side, and actually mixing everything together, and it's just a mess.
Yeah, technique is
just
important.
Technical mess.
That said, some of it is conditioning type stuff that you were doing. So what is like the hardest type of physical conditioning you were doing?
Probably ran too much, when I was a kid. If I could go back now, I wouldn't run as much. And I ran hard and I ran strong. And I remember doing London Marathon one time, and I said I'm never going to do it again. I never. But I ran, and I was trying to. The problem was when I did the London Marathon is I was trying to beat 3 hours.
It's that desire to win again.
It's totally insane. It was insane.
Yeah.
And I went out through half marathon in what I thought was a good time. Anyway, I got to 16, 17 miles and totally blew. And
so you went out too fast.
Yeah, I went out too fast.
And then you just
I died.
Keep going.
Absolutely.
Just
I died. Lex, I got in. I crossed the line. I remember seeing this bridge over there, right? And the bridge, it was the finishing line over the bridge. And I had to get there. It was the longest bridge I've ever walked over. And walk, run. So I got over the bridge and I took one step over the line like that. And there was a guy over there and he was trying to rush everybody through, and he was going, come on. There was people behind me. Get your hands off me. I said, get your hands off me now, like that, because we're going to fall out, and I couldn't move. I couldn't move. Yeah. I was white. And
it was amazing that you made it to the finish line, though.
I did. I got over there, and Donald Duck passing me was a tell.
Oh, there's a person dressed as Donald Duck.
Donald Duck, yeah. But the thing was, I still crossed over 3:38. I crossed over 3:38, but I lost 38 minutes in the last 4 miles.
So that bridge, longest bridge ever. So you regret the run?
So anyway, I would do the running a little bit differently, but we ran hard. We did the weight training. We did good weight training. It was all conditioned. So, I mean, it was never the same training all the time. So it was always, we'd have certain phases building up. It was scientifically done. It wasn't just out there, run, weight training, judo, same judo all the time. It was always pretty scientific.
Good variety.
It was a good variety, and it had build up, and it had a speed phase, and it had a power phase, and it had a base condition.
What about the randori? Was there a method to the madness there? How much randori did you do?
A lot. So the most important thing for me, I see now that there's a lot of people out there that are not getting enough randori. They're not randoring enough. And there's a lot of sports science people, and they're running and they're weight training and they're doing it all to death. And there's not enough judo. And the only ones, you have a look at some of the Eastern Bloc countries that are getting together. They're having these mass camps, and The Japanese, they have, just massive people that they can do there. They're doing probably 50, 60 randeris a week.
Wait, what?
50 or 60 a week.
Wow.
The average person is getting together. I mean, when I was doing randeris, when I went to Japan, it was just purely for 60 randeris a week.
How much is each one? How long is it?
So they were 5 minutes then.
5 minutes.
They're 4 minutes now. But
that's a lot, especially given the level of the competition there.
Well, you can do it in Japan because it's fairly light. If they throw you, they throw you. You throw them.
So there's like a level of like you're moving at like a close to 100%, but the actual power and the force is not quite
different in Korea. Korea was harder. It was more physical. So you couldn't do 50 randeris in Korea. You'd die. Yeah. 50, so you do 30.
Wow.
Yeah. But you need the randori. And so I chased the randoris. So I chased them into training camps. I traced them all over my country. So I was getting 40 to 50 a week in my club. And then I would go to training camps and add more. And I honestly don't think that they do enough now. A lot of countries.
Somebody who doesn't know, randori is live training. So
yeah, sparring.
Was there a few people you remember that were just like really tough to go against? You mentioned Goldtooth. Is there others like it?
Goldtooth was pretty horrific.
Yeah.
He was.
Oh, you got him in the
pretty
end.
All right. I got him in the end.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Is there like I suppose I should say not just tough, but just good training partners that you like?
Great training partners. I remember with Nishida, and Nishida was, I mentioned him earlier, said he was one of the best. I mean, he was just such a great technician. So I would go there to his dojo and he'd ask me to practice. And he'd finish the practice and you know that he would always say another one. We'll do another one, right? So you'd go, oh, yeah, because you had to make out that you weren't that bothered that you had to do another one. So you do another one back to back. And then he'd go sometimes, let's do another one. So he'd end up doing 15 minutes with the same guy who could possibly throw you at any time, and that was hard, So, but I remember those particular guys, and there were plenty of those.
What do you do with the exhaustion that you're feeling in those? Like, how deep did you go in terms
you
of
have to dig deep, and I think that was the great thing about having certain like European training camps were more physical. So I remember, that we would have European training camps where you'd fight Germans and then the Dutch and then the French and then, the Russian or you'd have all sorts different styles and people there to fight. And that was something then you'd have to dig in at a different place, come out of there.
Well, where do you go mentally when how many times have you gone there where like you're really in deep waters exhaustion wise in competition, actually?
Competition, it's happened, so sometimes you go past where your forearms are absolutely blown. I remember the final of Czech tournament that we had, and fought a Frenchman in the final. And my forearms were so blown, I couldn't shake his hand, And then I remember they were solid, absolutely solid, and they had lactic acid in them. Yeah. And I remember I stood on the rostrum, and they were giving me things, and I couldn't grip them properly. So I was saying, put it under my armpit or, chin like that, trying to hold this. I couldn't hold anything, And so there are times when I really had to go really deep. I remember fighting 2 East Germans the same day, one of the competitions, and the number 1 and the number 2 East Germans. And that was another day where I had to really dig deep.
That's the fascinating thing about some of these tournaments is if you go full distance on several matches in a row, the way you're seeing in the finals are 2 people that have like fought a lot that day.
Yeah. And we have golden score now, so we see a lot of guys, that going into golden score and they've done one contest of 4 minutes and then they go another 4 minutes. And then, we've had some go into a third 4 minutes. This is all back to back. It might be in the first round. It might be in the final, and we've got some now that are coming out and you can see the stats and the ones that win in golden score. So we got Japanese Hashimoto. He's the Japanese representative now. Instead of Ono, because Ono's finished. So Hashimoto's coming out. He was in a tournament last week.
Is there
and
a
he
good
went
one to look up?
Yeah, just have a look at him. So Hashimoto's in white here. All right. And there's a great example there. Well, I'm glad we got onto that, So, I mean, he has got great technique, Hashimoto.
Effortless.
There's the Taitoshi. All right.
Wow.
So you can see exactly what we're talking about, that great timing. And again, sometimes he backs them up to the edge and then he'll wait for them to come back in towards. They don't want to step out to get a penalty.
I guess that's a cross grip title. Should I see that wrong?
Yeah, cross grip, different grips. Yeah. Oh, great examples there. Just what we were talking about.
Making it look so easy. Wow.
So he's going to be their representative at 73 kilograms. Look at him, back him up again. And again, just catching him as he pushes back.
So push, and then...
Yeah, action, reaction at his best there.
Yeah.
And slight change of direction. He sometimes goes down onto his knee there, which is Seotoshi. It turns from Taitoshi, which is springing up, to Seotoshi that's going down.
Oh, the title of the video is his Taitoshi is a work of art.
Yeah, this is him at his best, showing him doing what he does best. But he had to go 3 times into golden score last week and dig deep and lost one of them, I think.
But you're still going at it. You're talking about all those training sessions. Nikki, your wonderful wife, told me that you were going all over, like from target to target, looking for workout clothes because your luggage got lost because you had to get a workout in.
Yeah, you know what? I realized that if I'm a miserable git, right, then she'll get me into the gym, So, and the thing is that I'm better if I get in there for an hour and I just do something, at least 35 to 40 minutes cardio, and then I do some weights and more high repetitions. It's not so much heavy weights now, but more functional stuff.
I mean, you travel all over the world for the commentary of these competitions. So is it sometimes a challenge to figure out how?
Well, we're during COVID. Then they closed all the gyms, but we were still going out. We were one of the first ones out. The judo were some of the first out. The competitions were behind closed doors. So we were in the hotel. The gym was closed, so we couldn't use the gyms. So we had to look for other ways that we could work out. So most of the hotels that we were in were high-rise hotels. So we were in the steps. We were doing the steps right the way up, So I started it, and so I started off with me going up, and then one or two of the others, and the referees started to go up with me. And so in the end, we'd have this trail of people going up the steps and down, and every place we went to, we had the steps. So, that was an interesting situation. So we were sick of steps in the end.
What advice would you give to beginners, people starting out in judo, how to develop their game, how to find the beauty in the sport and the art of judo?
If you put 10 people in a room and said, right, get on with it.
Yeah.
You'd have mayhem, right? And I think that whatever sport you're doing, you need good instruction, good teaching, and a good club atmosphere, somewhere that's not so intense that winning is the only thing. And I think that if you look at 90% of the people that practice martial arts are doing it for pleasure. So they want to get pleasure. So you need a club that's got a bit of a mixture. They've got a direction to go into competition if they want. And then the rest, it's for fun and to enjoy it, but with really good instruction. Because with really good instruction and a good foundation and a good base, you get more enjoyment because you're more, you have more success. And let's be honest, the more success we have with something, the more we like it.
Yeah, and great technique is a way to really discover the beauty of the art. And so great teaching is really important there.
Great teaching is so important.
What about what does it take to get from the early days when you start judo to world class level?
I think that with most, I mean, you do hear, don't you? You know, if somebody's been doing judo for 8 years and then they're in, and I think it happened, one of the French, Chameo, she went to the Olympic Games in 2012 and she'd been doing judo for 8 years. But then she started to lose, you know, so she had a relative success early on. The Olympics was one of them. She got a silver medal. But then she went off the boil and then she came back and now she's been there she's still competing and she's been there for well over 13 years at the very top. So I think that, you know, any foundation, it's like anything. If you lay a really solid foundation, generally it lasts longer.
Yeah, but that foundation again, is that technique or is there what does it take to build that foundation?
I think technique, you get away with murder. You know,
Yeah.
you with technique, you can get away with, you know, having bad condition, you know, but I mean, you get found out in the end, but you can, you know, you can go out and you can win certain things by doing really nice technique. But I think if you've got the mixture, if you've got the whole package, then you can, you know, go the whole way.
So for people who somehow don't know, you've commentated some of the greatest judo matches ever. You've done Grand Prix, you've done all these events, Olympics, World Championship, everything. So what just looking at the history of judo, what like stands out to you? What events stand out to you? What are some good memories that pop to your head?
I think, you know, some of the Paris tournaments are amazing because the crowd, they're there, you know, they're on the mat, they're all judoka, they're well educated to the sport. Every time somebody twitches, you know, they're very biased towards their own, which is you kind of you expect. But you know, sometimes I haven't been able to hear myself speak. And that's very unusual. You know, you've got headphones on and you're blocked out, you know, and it's like sometimes Teddy Riner's been walking out there and the crowd are going crazy and they're on their feet, you know, when somebody twitches and, you know, and then you get the crowd silences. We had one of those last week, you know, everybody's cheering their man and then bang, their man goes over.
Yeah, and
you
there's silence.
Silence, nothing like that.
Yeah.
And of course we were commentating, we were going, that was a bit of a crowd silencer, you know. But yeah, that happens.
Yeah, that is a surprising thing that at least it was to me, that Paris and France is really big on judo.
Massive. You know, and there's always surprises, you know, it's like Paris is great. In Japan for the Olympic Games, the biggest surprise was Ono getting beaten in the team event. Now, Ono's the greatest judo man, pound for pound, probably one of the best. And he won the Olympic title. And then they went into the team event against France. And Ono lost to he's not run-of-the-mill German, but the German, you know, he wasn't certainly Olympic title-esque. And beat Ono.
Yeah, well, the team stuff is fascinating.
Yeah,
right?
it's fascinating.
It changes the dynamics of the whole thing.
Yeah,
and it's funny you say Paris. It really makes it really big deal that this Olympics is being held in Paris. Like,
they'll be the team to beat, French team, because they have the best balance of the weight categories. They have the best balance with their people that are world and Olympic champions and qualified. Men and women. So three men, 3 women. They have the best balance out of anybody.
And an educated audience.
Educated audience, home ground.
It's going to be awesome.
It's
going to be super fun.
It will be super fun.
Are you nervous?
Yeah.
All right.
Do you get nervous?
I get nervous. I get nervous.
Wow, I get really
nervous right now. But, you know, given especially because it's the Olympics and you don't want to, you want to celebrate people properly, right? And it's like, it's everything for them.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, especially like the finals matches, you know, it'll be watched, you know, millions of times, the highest of stakes, all of this.
Played over and over.
Yeah.
And I find that, you know, with mine, I'm now a little bit more careful, you know, with like, so I'll celebrate a massive throw and then have empathy to the one that's been thrown, you know, because it's not the best feeling in the world. especially in Olympic finals.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Must be terrible.
Must be terrible. Yeah.
Just reflecting. So I have a bit of empathy there, and I try and say the right things because they always do come up to me and say, "You commentated my fights."
Yeah, you're the voice of the biggest triumphs and the biggest tragedies for these athletes, for the world that watches and admires these athletes.
No pressure.
You're the voice. Don't screw it up, Neil.
Don't screw it up.
Your voice is in my head when I watch these. It's just fascinating. It's fascinating. But you're a master of it. It's a huge honor that you would talk with me. Thank you for everything you've done for the sport of judo, for the Olympics, for just sports in general, just celebrating greatness in all of its forms. Thank you for talking today. Keep going. I can't wait to listen to you in Paris.
Thank you for having me. And it's just been an honor to be here with you.
Thanks for listening to this conversation with Neil Adams. To support this podcast, please check out our sponsors in the description. And now, let me leave you with some words from Miyamoto Musashi. There's nothing outside of yourself that can ever enable you to get better, stronger, richer, quicker, or smarter. Everything is within. Everything exists. Seek nothing outside of yourself. Thank you for listening and hope to see you next time.